Hello, hello. Oh, good afternoon, good evening, good morning, everyone, wherever you are in the world. Hello, hello. Hope your Sunday has treated you well. Got my caffeine. I'm ready to rock and roll. Hope you are too. Welcome, everyone. Welcome, everyone. Good to see you, Ram. Good to see you, Henrik, Rob. I see you guys chatting before I even went live. Good to see everyone is hyped for this Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. Welcome, welcome. Long time no see, Marlon. Good to see you, mate. Hope you're doing well. Oh, tap that like button. Yes, it'd be much appreciated, guys, if you could continue to hit that like button. And, of course, subscribe as always. Much appreciated. Hit 40,000 subs last week, and we are looking to continue on and grow this great community that we have here. So, yes, we have a great race. Fingers crossed, we have a great race in store for us. We'll have a look, of course, at the strategy options and a little bit of interesting data from yesterday as well before we even have a look at those strategy options and potentially how it can affect today's race. But, yes, Saudi... It's thrown up some intriguing scenarios the last few years, and hopefully we get the same here today. Thank you, Rabbi. I have seen a couple of them, buddy. Keep up the good work, man. Happy Easter as well. Yes, happy Easter, everyone. I hope you've stuffed your face full of chocolates. I haven't, unfortunately, because I'm trying to slim down for a holiday, a first family holiday. So, but yeah. You're telling it Lando's going to get a podium today. Well, we will run a poll very soon, Luminescence, in relation to Lando and where he will finish. I'm intrigued to see how he gets on today. Of course, he needs to bounce back. He has to do the same as what he did in Bahrain, even better, potentially. He has the car, but we know that McLaren is a bit tricky in dirty air. And, well, a circuit like Saudi, where there's not going to be as much tyre degradation, anywhere near as much tyre degradation as what we saw in Bahrain. It could be completely different for Lando, but look, he may benefit from a safety car, a red flag. So yeah, we will see how he gets on. We'll run a separate poll of where we think he will finish today. Of course, starting from 10th place, no additional positions for Lando as there were no grid penalties dished out yesterday. Have I changed my setup around? Yes, Marlene. Yes, since you last tuned in, I moved the sim rig from one side of the room to the other. And yes, the sim rig room is now my daughter's room. So, hey Sophia, good to see you. Welcome back. Full P's. Do I think Piastri will take full charge on top of the Drivers' Championship? He has the potential to do so today. However, I did see that if the drivers finish where they do today, so even if Lando, even if Lando finishes third and gets on the podium, if Max wins and Piastri finishes second, Max will lead the championship by 2 points from Oscar Piastri. So, yes, Max, if he wins today, I think no matter what, unless Lando finishes second, Max will go to the top of the standings, I think. So that's like the only scenario. And, of course, it's a tall order for Lando to get that today. But look, we've seen red flags. We've seen plenty. We've got 100% safety car here in the last 4 years we've been here. So, yeah. Will that continue here this time around? Potentially. Hey, Joel. I'm doing very well, thank you. Hope you're doing well. Andrew, everyone from the Hawk's Nest, Australia, 2:20 a.m. You are committed, Andrew. You are committed. So yes, we Europeans and us, and I suppose many in the US as well, we got the full experience, or full Australian viewing experience in the first 3 races of the year, starting that early. But I must admit, it's been a bit. I've been waiting for this all day, and I feel like I'm not a big fan of the evening races in the UK. While I can get everything done I want to do, it feels like I'm waiting around a lot. I'd much rather just kind of get it over and done with. As much as I enjoy, obviously, the watchalongs, it's like, oh, still got all this to come ahead of us. I much prefer them in the middle of the day or a bit earlier. So, where's my co-host? She's being fed right now. She's having dinner. Hey Raven, good to see you. With these softer tyres, the cars are better on tyre wear will have the advantage. Yes, but it's the big question is how much tyre wear will we see at all? That is the big question, isn't it, really? That is the big question. So, we do have, actually... we do have the sighting laps right now, guys. So, do not fear. This is just the sighting laps, and well, it gives a bit of insight into maybe if any drivers have issues or not. We will see. But let's get this all set up, shall we, so that you guys can see. There we go. So the drivers are just making their way round to their pit lane box. So you can see here, what's interesting is that the track temperature is a bit higher than what it was. Well, is it a bit higher? It's a couple of degrees higher than what we saw in quali yesterday. So how will that affect the teams out there? Of course, Max Verstappen how is that car going to be in race trim? Of course, he has the advantage of pretty much, of course, clean air at the front, but it's going to be a dash to the first corner. I think first place starts on the inside, so we know that the inside car has all the power. So Oscar Piastri needs to be careful because you know Max Verstappen is going to just completely let off the brakes if there is an opportunity of Piastri coming around his outside there. So yeah, the dash down to the first corner is going to be very intriguing. Do I have a breakdown with tyres for each team? I do, Anthony. We'll get onto that shortly. We'll just let the drivers make their way round to their grid slots, and then we'll have a look at the strategy options for today. And the tyre allocations as well. Hey, Kelv, good to see you all the way from Kenya. Welcome, welcome. You're predicting many safety cars and VSCs today. Well, we've had a 100% chance in the previous races here at Saudi Arabia. This is the 5th iteration of the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, I believe. Because we've been coming here since 2021. Was it the first time we came here was in 2021? You can let me know, guys, if that is correct. I think 2021 was the first time we came here. So, yeah. Come on, Norris, surely still get a top 5. Yes, well, hang on. Should we do that? But I think it's pretty... I mean, it's pretty tight, to be fair. The voting between Verstappen and Piastri. 45% for Verstappen to win this race today. Piastri, 39%. More of you have faith in Leclerc winning this race than George Russell. I'm a bit intrigued by that thinking there. But we'll end the stream. No, not in the stream. We're not ending the stream. Slip of the tongue. We're not ending the stream. We're ending the poll. We're ending the poll. And we'll start... we'll start a new one. Where will Lando finish? So, let's go podium. I'm not going to say win. Do we say win? Do we say win? Let's go win. Do you think there's going to be some shenanigans and he wins today? Let's go podium. We'll go top 5 or top 10. I don't think suggesting he'll finish outside the points is really an option worth putting in. So, but he will crash a DNF. I don't think he'll crash in DNF. No. Piastri Championship leader today. Well, he needs to get ahead of Max. Forecast 2 safety cars as the race goes on. The temperature will decline, leading to different performance of each car. That is very true. Yeah, the track temperature will cool as we head further into the evening here at Jeddah. Another choke job. I mean, can it get more choky than yesterday? Can it get more choky? Wasn't good, was it? Wasn't good. When you look at how close the other drivers were getting to that wall of turn 4, he was quite far away from it, wasn't he? And a very, very costly error for Lando. Podium is a stretch at Saudi. The reason I say there might be a podium here for Lando is because I think we are going to see some safety cars here. I think we're going to see some potential advantages taken by some drivers with the safety car, potentially even red flags as well. I mean, Lando, it's maybe about time Lando actually got on the receiving end of a decent red flag, right? Feels like he's always been on the poor end of a red flag. So, yeah. He could go potentially. It's interesting to see. I'm intrigued to see what tyre he starts on here. We'll have a look at the strategy options very shortly. Of course, the drivers at the moment are just making their way round to their pit box, guys. So just always a little bit intriguing to see how the drivers get on. Fingers crossed Norris can have 3 cars on the first corner again. Potentially. I mean, there could be crashes ahead of him. We have 6 rookies here, of course, this weekend. Well, I say 6. I still count Lawson as a rookie, really, to be honest with you. He's a full-season rookie, isn't he? So, potentially anything can happen with those out there. I mean, it could even be not even the rookies. As we saw yesterday, Lando Norris brought out the red flag, and Yuki Tsunoda did so on the Friday as well. Just subscribed. Thank you, Joseph, and thank you for everyone for subscribing as well. Yes, I hope you... I mean, we had a brilliant qualifying yesterday. Thank you for everyone who tuned in and has viewed the video as well. Funny enough, I actually lost quite a few subscribers from the video yesterday that I posted of just the highlights of quali. Maybe it's because we had a few Max Verstappen haters who decided to unsubscribe. They weren't too happy with my praise of his quality lap, but hey ho, you know, here's what it is. We try and be fair and reasonable here, regardless of what your opinions are of each driver. I have my own opinions, of course, my own biases, but you got to respect talent and performance where it is due. How's the princess? Will she watch the race on my lap? No, not today. Not today. No, she'll be tucked up in bed not too long. Not in this room though. She'll be back. She'll be sleeping in our room. We have another cot, so although she's outgrowing that one. I'd love to see him do well, but he's making it difficult for himself at the moment, Lando. Yes, indeed. What's my top 3 today? Ooh. I'll get to that shortly, as I'll just answer Mike's question. Is Max the best qualifier I've seen in F1? He's one of the best qualifiers I've seen in F1. I mean, you can't look past Lewis Hamilton. He's got the most poles ever in F1, so he's definitely up there. Who else has been pretty good in my time watching qualifying? Sebastian Vettel was pretty good, wasn't he, as well? I mean, Charles Leclerc is also one of those who is, I think he hasn't got the car underneath him at the moment, but when he has, I mean, he's also dragged his car into pole position in many times when he shouldn't have done. Who else? Who else in my time? I'm trying to think who else was also very good in my time. I mean, Nico Rosberg. Do you know what? Nico Rosberg was also a very, very good qualifier. I think people underestimate Nico Rosberg because he got beaten, obviously, by Lewis 2 out of the 3 years they were together. But no, Rosberg was a phenomenal qualifier. His single lap pace was great. But Max is definitely up there, for sure. He's definitely in my top 3. Senna was phenomenal. Yeah, I'm too young to remember Senna. Yeah, Ayrton Senna, a bit before my... it was well before... Well, I say well before my time. I was just out of nappies, pretty much, when Senna was at McLaren and then obviously Williams and stuff. So Mika Häkkinen was great. Yeah, Mika Häkkinen was also great. Schumacher was great as well, so... Doesn't George usually out-qualify Hamilton? He has done since in this iteration of cars, this era of cars. But, yeah, I think it's quite evident to say that this era of cars hasn't suited Lewis. He even stated yesterday, I need a brain transplant. That's what he needs to perform better in this Ferrari, which I think he's, like Norris, a little bit too open with his emotions, to be honest with you, at the moment. It's just like, dude, dial it back a bit, you know? Evening, Geraldine. Good to see you. You haven't missed anything. Drivers are just making their way around to their pit boxes. So, yeah, that's pretty much it. Nothing to report. No offs. Sometimes there's some offs, you know, some moments. That's why it's interesting to just check, so. Right. Should we have a look at strategy options, guys? Let's have a look at strategy options. Just get it up for you. All right. Here we are. Here are the strategy options for today. Oh my God, what's going on here? Here are the strategy options for today. Whoopee! All one stoppers, barring the two stopper, which is two hard compound tyres, which I'd be very surprised if we saw a two stopper here today, unfortunately. Yeah, looks like with a very low deg circuit, this track is smooth like butter, the Saudi Arabian circuit. So, yeah, one stopper, a boring medium to hard tyre, which is why really we do need some safety cars. We do need even a red flag, because I think we could end up potentially with another Suzuka. I hope not. There is opportunities for overtaking here, we have seen, and it does seem like a few teams have decided to set up their cars differently. Some with low downforce, some with more drag, so that can play a factor, maybe unlike what we saw at Suzuka. But yeah, we've got another circuit where it's, even with Pirelli bringing the softest compound tyres, I don't see deg being an issue, to be honest with you. This race might be a spiritual journey for Norris. Yeah, I mean, look, he's the only... I say the only way is up for him. I mean, I know a few of you have said, where's the option for DNF? Where's the option for DNF? I don't think that's fair to really say he'll DNF. Of course, we saw what happened in quali yesterday. But I think a top 10 is pretty much a given for Lando. It's more so where he will finish. I think a podium will be on the cards here for McLaren. I think they'll try and go long. I think they will. They'll want to get clean air. That's primarily what they'll want to try and do. And I think you have to try and go long here. I think if they try and start him on the soft compound tyre and do that early pit stop, I think he's going to not get the benefit of a potential safety car and a potential red flag, which is always a high percentage here at Saudi Arabia, Jeddah. So I think you have to go as long as possible, and just hope that maybe there is a red flag you get the benefit from, and the safety car get a cheap pit stop. It wouldn't surprise me if McLaren try and get him into some clean air, because we know that McLaren is super quick in clean air, but then it depends on how much time he can truly make in clean air and whether or not he'd be able to. And then, of course, if a red flag and a safety car comes out, which is always a high percentage of here, which we'll check in a second, he's not going to benefit from that. So Russell and Leclerc will be good too. Yeah, don't rule out George Russell today. I think a few people are sleeping on Mercedes, you know. I think they are. But, of course, we know clean air is king in F1 at the moment, and the McLaren is running more drag, more downforce than that of Verstappen. He's running low downforce. It's whether or not that McLaren will be able to stay with that Red Bull. I think if it can stay with that Red Bull through the high-speed corners and not lose too much time in the dirty air, then I think Piastri will have enough to overtake Verstappen with the assistance of DRS. But then keeping Verstappen behind, I really hope we get a battle between Piastri and Verstappen. Really want to see it. So, you have belief that Lewis is going to take this one or at least be on top 3? No chance. No chance. Unless there's a benefit of a red flag, but even then, I don't think Lewis would have the pace in that Ferrari to hold anyone behind him, unfortunately. Who do I think is going to be P1 today? I am going to stick with Piastri. I am. I said Piastri at the start of the week, and I think Piastri will still see it through today. That's not ruling out Max Verstappen, of course, but I'm just going to stick with my guns and say what I said at the start of the week, which is Piastri. George will take it after all the fighting up front. Maybe. There's no room for error here, as we know. So we've already seen red flag. We've seen a red flag on Friday, a red flag yesterday. Surely we've got to see one today, eh? To make it 100% red flags this weekend, in not each session, but each day. So yeah, that's the options for today. We need some safety cars, in my opinion. We need some red flags to spruce up this race. I really hope I'm wrong, and I really hope that we at least see the difference in setups provide us some intrigue and allows racing. But we're definitely not going to get like we've got at Bahrain last week, which is the tyre offsets playing a factor in overtakes. So it's not going to be as, in my opinion, and my prediction, I don't think it's going to be as exciting in wheel-to-wheel battling as what we saw in Bahrain, just because of the tyre offsets. We need that. So, why are you so damn nervous for this start, Crolido? 'Cause it's a short run down in Saudi. It's a short run down to turn 1, isn't it? Very, very close, short. So these are the tyre allocations, guys. How much this will play an effect today, I don't know. The key for Norris is that he's got one fresh set of softs available to use because, of course, of his crash in Q3. So could that, if there is a red flag today, could that be influential to Norris? Because we are going to see tyre drop-off, of course we are. But how much of a tyre drop-off do we see? It's probably not going to be, it's going to be nowhere near as severe as what we saw in Bahrain. Could those extra laps that Piastri has done on softs and Verstappen and so forth, could that be the difference with Lando having a fresh set to use and be available today? But you can see there, everyone in the top 4 teams has the same tyre allocations, 2 sets of hards, 1 set of mediums. There's going to be no intrigue in relation to strategy today. It's going to come down to safety cars. It's going to come down to clean air. The undercut will the undercut be powerful here? Yes, to an extent. The undercut will be powerful here, but it's all about clean air. It's all about the gaps and whether or not you can get your car in clean air and make use of that outlap. You'll be in Montreal for the F1 race, Glenn. Lovely. I hope you enjoy it, mate. I've never been to an F1 race still. Never been, guys. So, why does Aston Martin like brushing their tyres a bit? Because they like to take the shine off the tyres and it's easier to warm up the tyres and get temperature in them if you take the shine off them. So that's their theory behind it. That car's just ultimately too slow at the moment. Lance Stroll just broke the record for the most Q1 disqualifications, most Q1 exits in F1 history. 75 Q1 exits is what Lance Stroll has just had, and I think he's participated in 170 odd F1 races now. So that's a lot. And I think Lance Stroll's response was, if other drivers were driving tractors for the last few years, then it also would go out in Q1. I was like, oh, okay. Fair enough. But I think it's more so on your driving talent and ability than it is actually the cars, because you've had not that bad of cars really in the past, have you? You've had some strong Williams cars in the past and strong Force India in the past. So, yeah. The fact he can't be fired from the team either unless his father says so. I know, Valoris, it's ridiculous, isn't it? Someone stated something that I think will be implemented potentially once Lance Stroll does leave F1 is that there may be a rule that's implemented that you cannot have a father and son ownership driver relationship anymore, because otherwise you're just clogging up seats. It'd be interesting if that rule is put into place once Lance Stroll leaves, but I think that'd be a very good rule to put into place because he's overstayed his welcome, isn't he, on talent alone. So you expecting a goodie bag for first time here? No. First retirement, guys, or who knows, going to be first time. So, yeah, that's strategy options, guys, really. So, we've got no intrigue, really, today, unlike we saw at Bahrain last week. In strategy, it's pretty much going to be a one-stopper. Hopefully, we get the safety car and we get the maybe even a red flag to spruce things up a bit. Now, this is what is intriguing here, guys. This is the figures you need to keep an eye out on and remember mentally, because we have 100% possibility of safety car here. Well, we have had 100% safety car in the last 4 races we've had here, 21, 22, 23, 24, yes. So because there is no room for error here, and because if you crash, it's walls and everywhere is basically an opportunity for someone else to obviously go into you if you have crashed. A crash always means a safety car. There's no way really for even breakdowns. There's very few areas where drivers can, or marshals can safely remove the car and the drivers can park their cars up. So we at least see a VSC, 100% chance of safety car, and 25% of the time we've had a red flag. So only one red flag in the last 4 years. So, okay. Which was 2021, wasn't it? That was 2021. We had a red flag. Remember that one? I think that was Mick Schumacher crashed off at the last corner, I think it was. And Max benefited from that and launched to the front. But yes, stationary pit stop. Pit stop window is basically 19 seconds. So that's the gaps the teams will be looking for to pit their drivers into, because clean air is king, as we know. And stationary, well, if there's a safety car in VSC, this is the key one here. Almost half the time almost half the time in a pit stop time there, 10.5 seconds. So yeah, if you can get a cheap pit stop under the safety car or VSC, oof, you are quids in. You are quids in, guys. Money is why they won't have that rule. It's also why we have MBS. I know. Well, I'm a positive guy. I'm an optimistic guy, you know. Unfortunately, Stroll has 10 points. Yeah, but not really doing much, is he? Hard to rate Alonso in this Aston Martin. It is hard to rate him, but he did really decent to get into Q2. I thought he would be out in Q1, to be honest with you. So the fact he got into Q2 is a good performance by Fernando Alonso. Hey, Jonathan, rainy Bergerac in France. More like British bank holiday weather. I know it's not raining, but it's been nice here this weekend. It's not been too bad. So yeah, that's it, guys. 0% chance of rain, of course, in the Saudi desert. And 29-degree air temperature. And we saw track temperatures as they were going around on their sighting laps around to the grid, that it was 38 degrees and cooling. So yeah, similar temperatures to what we saw yesterday in qualifying. Now, the track itself, let's remind you guys of the track and what to keep an eye out on for today. There are 3 DRS zones here available to the drivers. So the first one is the start-finish straight, of course, and the DRS detection there is out of the last corner. A few years ago, they changed it. Remember, we saw the DRS games with Charles Leclerc and Max Verstappen. It used to be around where the speed trap was, but that is no longer the case. They've moved it around the last corner, so you will see some drivers potentially still play those games where they'll will go wide at turn 27, or they'll let someone overtake them, because they will then have a decent opportunity to straight line them back past into turn 1. So yes, do you decide to make an overtake in that second DRS zone, or that last DRS zone, shall we say, from turn 25 to turn 27? That depends on whether or not you think you can hold on to it, I guess, down into the first corner, and maybe how much under pressure you are from the pack behind, because we will see probably some DRS trains here. The DRS detection zone down, we do see some bold overtakes every now and then into turn 22. It's a risky strategy. I don't expect to see too many overtakes into turn 22, but we have seen them in the past. Of course, if some teams are running maybe more drag, they're looking for more downforce, the lower downforce setup drivers will have an opportunity to overtake there. So that's basically it. Turn 1, we know, is a very tight corner entry. I don't know if you saw F2 yesterday and today. Multiple times we saw drivers just run out of room with the ahead of the apex rule, which I am not a fan of. That is where the inside car will have all of the power here. Of course, you need to be ahead at the apex. If you're trying to overtake around the outside here, you need to make sure you've got some considerable overspeed to ensure that if you do get forced out and you have to take to the escape road through turn 1 and turn 2, you have to make sure that you're ahead at the apex. Otherwise, you're just going to lose time. And, well, with Max Verstappen down into the first corner, I fully expect to see Max just roll off the brakes, even if he gets a bit of a poorer start. Roll off the brakes and just force Piastri out of room as he maybe tries to overtake round the outside. So Piastri is really needs to try and nail this start, or just slot in behind him. And then, yeah, we do see some overtakes sometimes into turn 13 around potentially the outside there if you've got a good traction. And as we mentioned, turn 27. So there are possibilities for overtakes here, but who knows in F1? Who knows? Murray, thank you for the £5 I'm rounding it up to £5 Thank you. For me and the little co-host. Thank you, buddy. Much appreciated. Thank you for your support, as always, guys. Gabriel Mini made his own track layout. I know. I think, was it Dunn? Was it Alex Dunn got a penalty, 5-second time penalty for running someone out of the track earlier. And it was also, Richard Verschaw? Was it Richard Verschaw lost? He lost the sprint race win because of exactly the same thing as well. So, yeah. We're going to see some bullying from a few drivers out there. Can the racing teams change the wing angles on the car for the race? They can only change the wing angles on the front wing. They're not able to change the wing angles on the rear wing. The rear wing angles are pretty much kind of dialed in from the get-go, to be honest with you. They have different wings, different loaded wings, and they're not able to alter those from Parc Fermé. They're allowed to angle the front wing differently, but the rear wing, they're not able to. Is the English pound worth as much as the Scottish pound? Yes, They're equal to each other. Max is using his regular bullying tactics on Piastri, especially at turn 27. We'll see, but Piastri is no he's no saint either. He will use the track or the over track limits and stuff to his advantage as well. I really want to see Piastri and Verstappen go at each other. I hope we get that battle today. Yeah, we'll see. Right, so yeah, that's basically it. Pretty much, guys, if you're just tuning in, there we go. So that's the strategies for today. Not too much to look forward to, unfortunately. Pray for a safety car today, guys, or a red flag. I think we need it. I don't advocate for drivers crashing, but I think we do kind of need that assistance here today at Saudi, because it does potentially. I'm concerned it may end up like we saw at Suzuka. I really hope not. Fingers crossed. I really hope not. So, as a Scot, you can confirm they are the same. So my top three. Yes, so let's get to my top three, shall we? My predictions. I'm going to say, as I said, I'm backing Piastri to win. I'm going to go Max P2. And I'm going to go for Lando P3. I think Lando might benefit from a safety car. Or is it George Russell? Don't rule out George in this either. Oh, it's so tricky. It's more hope than anything. Hopium than anything. Third place. Yeah, I think we're going to see a safety car here, and I think Lando might benefit from one. That's my... Yeah, I'm going to say Piastri P1, Verstappen P2, and I'm going to say, yeah, Norris P3. So, have I done a poll for the winner? Yeah, it was just Max Verstappen by about 5% over Oscar Piastri. 16 laps lost soft, I think you could do about 25. Yeah, I think, to be honest with you, even though we're a step softer, I think these tyres can probably go longer than what Pirelli are suggesting there. I think they're quite conservative. Even on full fuel at the start, I think the soft can probably go longer than that, and I think the mediums can probably go longer than that as well. But clean air is going to be the king. That's it. We'll see who is going to take advantage of that. And are you going to bank on? I guess it kind of depends on who's going to try and goal hang for maybe a safety car, and who has faith in their car in potentially clean air. But we'll see. Would the teams likely have a chance to soft and medium one stopper? Yeah, potentially. Yeah, I think so. We could see the soft go longer than that and see the medium used. They do think that maybe the hard I think everyone expects the hard compound tyre to be used here this week because it was technically it's the medium tyre from last year because we're one step softer. C5, C4, C3. The tyres lasted forever last year. Tyre allocations, nothing really to look into. Nothing really to look into. Everyone's got the same kind of allocation, other than Lando, who's got a brand new set of softs. So maybe Lando will start on the softs, but to have a little bit of extra grip at the start of the race, I don't think that strategy ever really plays out. I think Lando has to try and just stay out for as long as possible, to be honest with you. Depends how confident they think they're going to be able to overtake. That is the question. Where am I going here? Just altering something here. There we go. There we go. Cool. Right. Yeah, that's it basically. So let's get set up. Not long to go, guys. 10 minutes to go. Just over 10 minutes to go until this race begins. I hope you're hunkered down. I hope you've got your beverages. I hope you've got your snacks, because it's going to be a good one. At the moment, over 1,000 votes, over 1,100 votes, and, well, 46% of you think Lando will make it to the top 5. I've said podium, 33%, or 32% of you think podium. It's just switched a little bit there. 9% of you have faith he's going to win this race today. Maybe you think there's going to be some shenanigans. So, evening, Graham. Good to see you. My pleasure, guys. And yes, if you're new to this channel and you discovered it recently, hit that like and subscribe button. It'd be much appreciated. We're trying to hit 45k. We hit 40k last week. And yeah, big thank you for all the subs and big thank you for the memberships and that further support that you guys have been offering as well. You can become a Patreon member as well. I've set that up because I know that iPhone users don't get access to the join button, which is a bit odd. So you can support me that way as well. But yeah, big thank you guys for tuning in as always. These watch-alongs are getting bigger and better. So right, let's just finish setting up the live data again. And we should be good to go. Risk of rain, 0%. Shock, horror. Consider me shocked that we got 0% chance of rain. Right, so here we go. I think we're good to go there. I think we're good to go. No snacks, but we'll have dinner while watching the race. Yeah, I'm having dinner afterwards. I'm having dinner afterwards. Right. There's lots of concerns on Sky that I'm hearing that of potentially Ferrari's race pace. Not Ferrari. We know Ferraris are struggling in general. But yeah. So actually, sorry, Oscar is started on the inside. So the start of the grid, pole position starts on the outside. That's interesting. I thought pole position started on the inside. So Oscar Piastri sends it down the inside and says I'm ahead at the apex. Watch out for that, guys. Watch out for that. That's interesting. I thought it was the other way round. So Piastri plays Max at his own game, rolls off the brakes, heads into the first corner, ahead at the apex. That's what I'm predicting. I'm very well, newborn. I'm doing very well, thank you. George. Yes, little one. She is in the other room. She is now fed, got a full belly, and yeah, supporting us. Your question is, why does pole not always have the inside? I think it's more fair. Sometimes it's fair, sometimes it isn't. Because while Piastri is starting on the inside, he's not on the racing line. So technically speaking, he should have less grip off the line, and he could potentially spin his rears up and have a poorer start than pole position, which will be on the racing line. That's not always the case. It's not always the case, but theoretically speaking, he's started on the dirtier side of the track. Max is already looking at the apex and saying, mine. Do I think there's a chance of Kimi beating Max's record? Which record is that? Also, underrated performance yesterday for Kimi Antonelli because he qualified P5 and he was only slower than the top 3 drivers in this. I mean, makes sense really, but he's only really corner. He was slower than the other drivers. Was the first and second corner. Kimi Antonelli had a very, very confident and good solid lap yesterday in qualifying to put in P5. If he hooked up turn 1 and 2, it's always some buts of course, but he could have been pressuring his own teammate and potentially Verstappen and Piastri for that front row start yesterday. That is no joke. So I'm intrigued to see how the Mercedes get on today with their race pace. I think they do have potential here, but of course, dirty air, that usual word. We just don't know how the cars are going to deal with that here. So is the TV coverage already showing the build-up, or is the show not started? TV coverage shows build-up. Yeah, they're already showing the build-up. So, I mean, we have 6 minutes, just over 6 minutes until this race gets underway, guys. Russell will do nothing and be P3. Probably. I think the good thing about Kim is he's trying to be consistent in every session, qualifying and race. He has potential, yes. And, well, at Bahrain, he maybe potentially struggled a little bit with the tyre deg. Here, we're not expecting to see that. So it's more likely that we're going to see a good performance here from Kimi Antonelli. Maybe similar-ish to what we saw in Suzuka, with a bit more of an opportunity to overtake here at Jeddah than at Suzuka. I expect a strong performance from Kimi. So, Verstappen and Piastri collided at Abu Dhabi. They did indeed. I think we're going to see fireworks here. I think we really are. I mean, turn 1 is going to be... Turn 1 could be completely uneventful, or it could be massively eventful. We're going to see a few drivers take to the escape road of turn 1 and turn 2, that's for sure, because people will be trying to get into the inside of that turn 1 corner and be ahead at the apex. I think the stewards may... Or this is the thing, the stewards, they're always quite lenient on the first lap, aren't they? That's the problem. But I don't think they should be. I think ultimately, if someone is ahead at the corner and they automatically take to the escape road, when they had an opportunity of making it round that corner. I think they should be told to give the position back, but we'll see. We'll see. There's been new mods every race. No, there's no new mods, just the same mods. Marlin has been a mod for ages, but has been elsewhere for a while. But yeah, we need mods to keep this stream intact, guys. Need to keep you guys under check, you know. But yeah, it's not long to go, guys. Hope you filtering in are all well. Do I watch any other F1 YouTubers? Yeah, I watch a bit of Tomo. I do listen to Matt and Tommy as well. Who else do I watch? Check out a bit of Law V's content. Is that Law V's? Law's content. Yeah, that's the race. I watch it. I watched the race. I watched them as well. I think they're really informative. That's about it, really. So, when are we going to have the next sprint? The next sprint is in. The next sprint is in Miami, I believe it is, isn't it? Next sprint is Miami, which is the next race. Yeah, the next sprint is Miami, unless that's changed. I heard someone say that there wasn't a sprint in Miami, but I'm pretty sure it is. So, but hey, James, good to see you, mate. Thank you for being here. Being in mod is a hard work, having to read every comment. Well, we do have Nightbot here to keep you guys in check as well, of course, because yes, the chat does go very quick. I should check out Rocket Powered Mohawk. He's pure entertainment. I've tried watching his content. It's just not really my style. And obviously gets considerable amount of views, and it's to a lot of people's liking. It's just not really my kind of content that I consume. So I prefer to stream to Matt and Tommy's, even though I watch their other content. Well, yeah, I mean, look, my watch-alongs are very different to what those guys do. So while obviously we are on the oh, here we go, tyre blankets off. While we do provide F1 content, it's still different in the same sense. Should I say we're the same category? But here we go. Okay, well done, McLaren. Well done, McLaren. They're going long. I think that's the correct decision to do because Lando Norris is out of position. He started on the hard compound tyre. Now, of course, how quickly will he be able to get those hard compound tyres up to temperature? We will see. But I think that's the correct strategy for Lando, to try and go as long as possible, be on technically the softer, quicker tyre at the end of the race. And, yeah, hold out for clean air and potentially hold out for a safety car and a red flag to gain a cheap position. I think that's the right decision. It was either going to be the hard or medium compound tyre. No one is starting on the softs, which is interesting. I thought maybe someone may brave the soft compound tyre, but no. We have Hulkenberg and Stroll starting on the hards, as well as Isaac Hadjar. So split strategy for the RB drivers. That makes sense. And also for Aston Martin. Interesting that Albon and Sainz are both starting on the hards. I thought maybe they might mix up Albon on the hard compound tyre as well. And Haas are also not splitting their strategy. So, as well as the Alpine drivers. So I thought we may see a few more split strategies here from those further down the grid starting on the hard compound tyre. But yes, the medium compound tyre is the tyre of choice, the grippier tyre. How will they be able to fire up those hards though? But I think that's the right decision there for McLaren to bank on that potential safety car and go long in this race. Get clean air. We know that McLaren's quickest in clean air. Well, technically speaking, in race trim, at least it is anyway. And we'll see, of course, how those up ahead get on and how long they'll be able to make those mediums last for. But there we go, guys. That is it. Here we go. Kevin, yes, the subs have gone up. We've grown the channel massively. Big thank you to everyone. We have 50 seconds until the formation lap gets underway. Quick loo break for myself and everyone else. I suggest you do the same. And then the formation lap is going to be underway. And the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix is only moments away from getting started. So, yes, let's get going, guys. there we go. Formation lap underway. Formation lap underway. Here we go. Here we go, guys. Here we go. Here we go. So I'm going to end this, the poll, not the stream, the poll, if I can. And, well, it's not ending, unfortunately, for some reason. Who knows? But yes, 46% of you think Lando is going to finish in the top 5. Podium position, 32%. Top 10, 13%. And 9% of you think he's going to be the winner. So, right. There we go, there we go. So, moments away from this Saudi Arabia Grand Prix getting underway. It is Max Verstappen on pole position after a mega lap yesterday. Oscar Piastri, beaten by 100th of a second, is starting in P2. On the inside line, down into turn 1, but on the dirtier side. Will we see those two collide? They collided in Abu Dhabi last year, didn't they, in the last race of the season? And, well, it's the first time we are seeing Verstappen and Piastri line up on the front row. George Russell, do not rule George Russell out, quietly going about his business. Could have potentially got pole position yesterday. He was really upset that he lost that 10th where he did. Said he was quite conservative on the tyre warm-up and just got his tyres a bit too hot because of that conservative approach to yesterday's race. Yesterday's qualifying. Charles Leclerc in P4, of course, just trying to get the most performance he can out of that struggling Ferrari at the moment. You do think Leclerc will have to require some assistance from a safety car or those colliding up ahead to win this race today and potentially, or at least be on the top 2 positions. Podium is still an opportunity for him against Russell, you think. Antonelli, great showing from him yesterday in P5, who we've already discussed. Carlos Sainz in P6. Of course, missed his race last year due to that appendicitis and having that removed, with Ollie Behrman standing in instead in P6. Lewis Hamilton in P7, of course, he is just struggling in that Ferrari at the moment. We'll see how he gets on today. Yuki in P8, good recovery from him after what was a crash on Friday's practice. Gasly in 9th, looking to continue a good run of form from Bahrain. Norris in P10, going long on those hard compound tyres. We'll see how he gets on today and keep an eye on his progress. Alex Albon in P11, Liam Lawson in 12th, at qualifying his teammate Hadjar for the first time in his return to RB. Alonso in 13th, good performance for him to drag that Aston Martin into Q2. Hadjar in 14th, starting on the hards as well. Behrman in 15th. Stroll 16th. Doohan 17th. Hulkenberg is 18th. Ocon is 19th. And Bortoletto is in 20th place. And here we go, guys. Moments away from the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix getting underway. I hope you are enjoying. Is the stream okay? The stream is okay at the moment, isn't it? I don't know what's going on with my... Not entirely sure what's going on with my data up above, but that doesn't really matter. It's all about what is going on here on this track map. Thankfully, guys, you are still with me. Here we go, guys. Here we go. Moments away. Moments away. Yes, Bortoletto dragging up there. Of course, the drivers, the longer they wait at the front of the grid there, the cooler their tyres will be. The top 9 starting on the medium compound tyre. Lando Norris started on the hards. It will be good for him in the long run, but of course, he doesn't want to lose positions at the start of this race on that harder compound tyre. How quickly we'll be able to get temperature into those tyres. You do suspect he won't have too much of an issue in the quickest car on the grid. So here we are, guys. Bortoletto at the back of the grid. It's green lights! The lights are out, away we go! And who's going to lead down into the first corner? Max Verstappen, I think, is side by side with Oscar Piastri as Oscar Piastri gets ahead of Max into the first corner. But, as we predicted, side by side action between the two of them as Verstappen regains that position from Piastri. And Leclerc has regained a position from Antonelli as well. Hamilton has got past Carlos Sainz as Tsunoda loses a position to Pierre Gasly. Alonso also up on 1 as well. And well, what happened there, Dan? There's a collision already at the back of the grid between Gasly and Tsunoda. This is going to be an early red flag, I believe, as Gasly and Tsunoda have fallen down to the back of the pack there. They are not moving at all. And well, it is definitely going to be a red flag here very early on in this race. We predicted they would be so, but they most definitely will be one early. Verstappen leads from Piastri, George Russell in P3, Charles Leclerc is P4, Antonelli 5th, Hamilton 6th, and well, there's still yet to be a red flag. Tsunoda did move ahead there, and I'm waiting to see the coverage of the first corner here, as Piastri did indeed get ahead of as Max Verstappen. And well, yes, as predicted, what is a safety car here? As predicted, Max Verstappen did have to go across the turn 1 and turn 2 escape road, and I think I need to see an overhead shot. I do think Piastri was ahead at the apex. As, oh my goodness, Pierre Gasly's rear wing is battered. Yuki Tsunoda is moving. But yes, Pierre Gasly's rear wing is absolutely battered. I'm surprised he got his car up to turn 5 as it is. And, well, Pierre Gasly, safety car. Could this be a red flag recovery vehicle on track at turn 5? It could be a very early restart here. I'm waiting to see the replay of what actually occurred. But, yes, Piastri did get a very good start on the dirtier line, on the inside line, and I think he was ahead at the apex. We will see. But the stewards, we do know they're quite lenient at the first lap, especially the first corner. But Yuki Tsunoda is moving. He will be at the back of the grid as it currently stands, but Verstappen leads from Oscar Piastri, safety car out. Shame for Pierre Gasly because it's been a good weekend for him. A great qualifying in the top 10. And, well, still waiting to see a replay of exactly what's occurred. That's a 100% record here at Saudi in relation to... so what happened with Yuki and Pierre Gasly? So it was actually turn 5. Oh, my goodness. Tsunoda catching Pierre Gasly there through turn 4 and turn 5. Pierre Gasly getting round the outside there of Yuki Tsunoda, and I don't think Yuki just... I'm yet to see another onboard of it, but it looks like Pierre Gasly was making a route move around the outside of turn 4 and turn 5. It wasn't actually the turn 2 and turn 3 corner that they had the collision. Gasly being very bold at the start, and Yuki Tsunoda left rear of Pierre Gasly and front right of Yuki Tsunoda's colliding together. Yuki's car does seem to be intact, ladies and gentlemen. So Yuki's car is intact, or does he have front wing damage? I'm not entirely sure. He is in the pit lane at the moment, unless he has picked up some suspension damage, which means he will also have to retire here. But safety car, I'm surprised it is still a safety car. They have a vehicle, they have a recovery vehicle on track at the moment. I'm quite surprised this isn't a red flag for that reason alone. As Piastri is stating, he needs to give the position back as I was ahead. Piastri already on the radio stating he needs to give the position back. Max Verstappen to Piastri, waiting to see a replay of that exact position as Jack Doohan has made a pit stop onto hards. Oh my goodness, the fact Doohan, Ocon and Bortoletto have already switched onto hard compound tyres means that they think they can take the hard compound tyre to the end of this race. That is obscene, ladies and gentlemen. How can they believe they can take the hard compound tyre the whole duration of this race? That shows how much low deck there is here. Yuki Tsunoda, I think, is retiring from this race. They're having a look at Yuki's car, the Red Bull team, and he's been sitting in the pits for quite some time, obviously on our images on the track map right now. And yes, Yuki's car has been switched off. Yuki has retired from this race. So that collision between Yuki and Gasly, the damage caused there by the two wheels interlocking of Pierre Gasly's left rear and Yuki's front right. So looking at the race restart, let's see who was ahead at the apex between Piastri and Verstappen. We've still got a safety car here as they're trying to remove his car. So we're watching Piastri's ahead at the apex. Piastri is ahead at the apex. So, yeah, I would say Piastri it's being investigated. Turn 1 incident involving Verstappen and Piastri. I mean, yeah, I don't like the rule. I think you should leave racing room at all times. But Piastri, as per the racing rules, was ahead at the corner there. That is Yuki Tsunoda's fault there. That is Yuki Tsunoda's fault. Carries a bit too much speed with Pierre Gasly on his outside. He knew he was there. And Yuki Tsunoda just not scrubbing enough speed on the inside meant that they collided there. So Yuki Tsunoda, unfortunately, at fault. Bold, though, risky from Pierre Gasly making a move on the outside there. So Piastri was 2 tenths quicker, almost 3 tenths quicker to respond to the lights than Max Verstappen. Oh, I tell you what, it's a bit close on the onboards. It's a bit close on the... It's a bit close. I'll tell you what. It's a bit close on the onboards. They're not sorting this issue out between Verstappen and Piastri before the safety car comes in, which I think is a bit silly to do, in my personal opinion. I think they should sort this out as quick as possible and come to a conclusion before the safety car comes in. There is still time for that to happen. But as the safety car is due to come in here, it is Verstappen leading from Oscar Piastri. Who knows if he'll maintain that position with George Russell in P3, Charles Leclerc and Antonelli as the top 5 were. We can see that Lewis Hamilton made a position up on Carlos Sainz and he's up into 6th place. Lando Norris is up 2 positions because of those collisions, but that collision between Tsunoda and Gasly. So he's made 2 freebies there. Albon also now into the points in P9. Alonso in P10, up 3 positions. Of course, one of those is of his own accord. 2 of them is because of Tsunoda and Gasly. Hadjar is up 3 positions as well. Looks like Liam Lawson. Not entirely sure how Lawson lost so many positions there, or held the position where he was. Maybe he was directly behind those 2 drivers when they crashed. He's in P12, and they're still not coming to a conclusion of this Piastri and Verstappen at the start. So, we will see. As Verstappen is just saying he just forced me off. There was no intention of him to make that corner. Playing him, I would say that's a move that you probably would have done yourself, Max, if you was on the inside. So, but we'll see. We'll see. No conclusion to that incident yet at the first corner as we go racing again and get this Jeddah circuit underway again as Max backs everyone up. DRS will be activated the next time around, not the first time around, as we have the safety car in. It is green light. Max is backing them up. He's waiting a very long time before he goes. Of course, and there's a 5-second time penalty. Oh my goodness, 5 seconds for Max Verstappen instantly for gaining an advantage. They're not asking him to switch the positions between Piastri. That is very bold from the stewards there. I thought they would just ask him to switch positions. So Max Verstappen has got a 5-second time penalty at the start of this race as we go racing again as they head down into the first corner. But will Max Verstappen be able to nullify that 5-second time penalty as he is out in front? I'm not entirely sure that's a correct decision by the stewards to dish out that certain penalty there. I thought they would just ask him to regain the position or give the position back up, but I guess the rules are now that it's up to the teams and the driver to give that position up. Otherwise, they will potentially receive a penalty. And because Red Bull have let Max maintain that position, he has been deemed at fault and has got that 5-second time penalty. As Tsunoda and Gasly causing a collision has been noted, but both drivers are out of this race. But Max Verstappen leads from leads from Oscar Piastri, who has that 5-second time penalty. George Russell in P3, Leclerc in P4, Antonelli in P5. Hamilton is up a position, and it's basically as we were as these drivers make their way round this first full racing lap here. We haven't had one yet because of that first lap incident between Gasly and Tsunoda. As I'm watching the replay, and Max controlled the restart perfectly, and Piastri had to go very defensive to George Russell, who got alongside him into turn 1. So, correct decision, too late for a swap. Indeed it is, David. Indeed it is. Is now down. The onus is now onto the teams and the drivers themselves. Whether or not they deem to give the position back or not, it's not down to the stewards to do so, as I'm remembering correctly, and that is why Max has been awarded a 5-second time penalty. So, will Max be able to nullify that, though? We will see. But yes, Max Verstappen, as we complete our first full racing lap here, as DRS will be activated this time around. He leads 1 second ahead of Oscar Piastri, just outside that DRS zone. George Russell in P3, Charles Leclerc is P4, Antonelli P5, Hamilton P6, Sainz in 7th. Lando Norris will keep an eye on his progression today, of course, trying to go very long on that hard compound tyre and try to end up benefiting from a safety car or a red flag. He didn't expect a safety car that early on. He was expecting a safety car later on in this race. But we have seen Doohan, Ocon and Bortoletto, interestingly, at the back of the grid here, already pit onto the hard compound tyre. Of course, you mandatory have to use 2 tyre compounds in a race, which they have done so already. They can stay on that hard compound tyre and go to the very end of this race. How long will that hard compound tyre last for, though, performance-wise? We will see at this very smooth Jeddah circuit. We don't expect really any tyre deck here. We have seen similarly in the past, like last year, and it can be a pretty boring race due to that, unlike Bahrain last week, where, of course, we saw very, very interesting and entertaining race, in my personal opinion, because of the abrasive nature of that circuit. But with DRS now activated, Piastri in that middle sector there is closed up on Max Verstappen, and he will have DRS here, as you can see. As the front two are already starting to pull a little bit of a gap to George Russell, who's 1.4 seconds back from Max Verstappen, from Oscar Piastri, as Piastri does close into 7 tenths under the braking zone into turn 27, the last corner. He loses a bit of time there on traction out of that last corner in the dirty air of the Red Bull, but he has DRS down that start-finish straight into turn 1, a 33.4 for Piastri, 3 tenths quicker that time around on Max Verstappen, who has that 5-second time penalty for leaving the track and gaining an advantage by not being ahead at the apex into turn 1. So we'll see if he's going to be able to nullify that. But Oscar Piastri fully within the DRS now of Max Verstappen. That purple last sector you could see from Piastri there with that double DRS. Just listening to Verstappen's radio now that he's been given that 5-second time penalty. As Max says, well, that is effing simply lovely. As GP, his engineer, says, yep, no comment, no comment. So they obviously think it was not his fault, but you can see there how important clean air is for Max Verstappen, because in that tight, twisty, where that downforce is required in that first sector, Max Verstappen, 34.330 in the first sector, and Oscar Piastri was 4 tenths slower in that dirty air of the Red Bull in that first sector, as Oscar Piastri is now 1.2 seconds behind Max Verstappen and will not be gaining DRS in the last sector as it currently stands. The stewards, though, let me know what you've... I mean, it's very interesting. It provides us with an interesting race, of course, with the driver out in clean air. Every driver who's been on pole position thus far has ended up winning the race. So the driver who started on pole, who is currently leading this race, Max Verstappen, does have a 5-second time penalty, as Lando Norris is all over the back of Carlos Sainz now, up 2 positions due to, of course, that freebie, those 2 freebies of Tsunoda and Gasly, who are both out of this race. Yuki Tsunoda unable to continue. But you can see there, Oscar Piastri gaining in that last sector on Max Verstappen in that slipstream. We didn't have DRS that time around. 1.7 seconds ahead of George Russell as it currently stands. Charles Leclerc further 1.5 seconds back. Antonelli trying to put pressure on Charles Leclerc as Norris gets past Carlos Sainz. Lando Norris on the hard compound tyre gets past Carlos Sainz. He's currently 8.5 seconds back from P1 of Max Verstappen as it currently stands. We'll see if Piastri is able to stay a bit closer to Max Verstappen in this first sector than he was last time around. Was it just a mistake from Piastri last time out rather than the actual dirty air? We will see, as it does seem like Piastri, that's better from him, a 34.3 in the first sector, whereas Max Verstappen in that clean air sets another purple first sector of a 34.32. So much better from Oscar Piastri there to stay in that window. But you can see there in the corners where that traction is required, Piastri does just lose a little bit of time as it currently stands. But you can see Piastri and Verstappen in a league of their own at the moment with 7 laps. On the 7th lap, he is currently just pulling out that gap. Interesting start to this race, guys. If you're enjoying it, please hit that like and subscribe button. We still have a very long way to go. 44 laps remaining here at the Jeddah circuit as Max Verstappen comes round the last corner for the 7th time here. We have had early collision between Tsunoda and Gasly that has forced both of them to retire. Max Verstappen received a 5-second time penalty, or has received a 5-second time penalty that he will have to take at his no doubt one and only pit stop whenever that is, due to leaving the track and gaining an advantage due to track limits turn 2 lap 1. Okay, now the track limits violation comes in for Max Verstappen at turn 1, as Piastri did get ahead at the apex into turn 1 and Max left the track and did not get the position back. So 5 seconds awarded to Verstappen, which Piastri will be just hoping to stay very close to Verstappen. He'll try and gain a position out on track, of course, because it means he is in clean air and in control of this race. But he does have the fortune of staying in his DRS under his rear wing and put that pressure on and gain an advantage in the pit stop whenever that is. George Russell in P3, he's just quietly going about his business as he has done pretty much throughout the start of this season. He's putting a gap on Charles Leclerc as Antonelli is trying to put pressure on Charles Leclerc at the moment in P5. Hamilton coming under pressure very soon from Lando Norris, you do presume, on that hard compound tyre, as Lando there last time around on the hard compound tyre was 6 tenths quicker than Lewis Hamilton. So getting into that dirty air window though, so we may see that lap time come down a little bit for Lando Norris, but we do know that McLaren is the quickest car out there. Of course, damage limitation here for Lando. He's nearly in that top 5. He'll want to clear Hamilton as soon as possible, but Verstappen still still just ahead of that DRS of Oscar Piastri. Piastri just can't get it when it matters. Not a lot of degradation here, so no doubt they're just going to go pushing lap after lap as it currently stands. If we head further down the field, let's have an update further down the field. Carlos Sainz, who is down 2 positions, is in P8. He now has his teammate who qualified in P11 right behind him. So at the moment, it's double points for Williams. Hadjar up 4 positions on the hard compound tyre as well. Like Lando, aiming to go long in this race, is in P10. Fernando Alonso up 2 positions into P11 also. Liam Lawson is where he started. Unfortunately for him, he wasn't able to benefit from those two, from Tsunoda and Gasly colliding. I'm yet to see a replay of that start, but it wouldn't surprise me if Lawson actually got caught up by that crash, and maybe why he lost a couple of positions there to Hadjar and Alonso. Behrman up 2 positions in 13th, as Lance Stroll is in 14th, Hulkenberg in 15th, Doohan 16th, Ocon 17th, and Bortoletto is falling off the back of the pack here in 18th, and it looks like it's going to be another lonely race for Bortoletto. Doohan, Ocon and Bortoletto all onto the hard compound tyre now to the end of the race, you do presume. As Verstappen is getting under a bit of pressure here. You can see Piastri there equal, actually quicker than Verstappen in the dirty air in that first sector. I think that's the first time Piastri has actually been on equal footing through that first sector on Max Verstappen. As you can see, that highlighted interval has been activated there, which means DRS will be available to Piastri as he heads out of the last corner down the start-finish straight. Piastri maybe getting a bit of a move on here in the rear, under the rear wing of Max Verstappen. He has DRS open. How much advantage will he gain? He gained 2 tenths out of the last sector there. Oscar Piastri on Max Verstappen as they head into the braking zone. And you can see that gap come down to half a second there, although Piastri does lose a couple of attempts on the traction out of turn 2. But he is lot closer now, Oscar Piastri, than he has been at all. As Verstappen has been told, he has track limits strike 2. He only has 1 track limits at the moment. But Max is reporting, I thought they wouldn't count that. It was literally said in the briefing. So Max Verstappen has only 1 track limits violation at the moment, so not entirely sure. He did say evidently that a track limits violation wouldn't be implemented for drivers being forced out of track at turn 1 and turn 2. But maybe it's because they think he was at fault. That's why he's been awarded 1. But Oscar Piastri lost 3 attempts there in the first sector to Max Verstappen this time around. So you can see how difficult it is to stay within the dirty air of the car ahead, as George Russell is 2.7 seconds back from Oscar Piastri at the moment. He's in a nice window to potentially just look after his tyres. Charles Leclerc pulling away from Antonelli now, and you can see Lando Norris is closing that gap down on Lewis Hamilton. P6 Lewis Hamilton, P7 for Lando Norris. 1.3 seconds is the gap now. Not as big of an advantage over the last lap for Lando Norris on Hamilton as he's getting into that dirty air window of the Ferrari on the hard compound tyre as well. You do suspect that he will be a touch slower, but that McLaren, we do know how quick it is. But Norris there, wow. He's just gained a couple of attempts there on Hamilton in that middle sector. It seems, or at least out of turn 23 and 24 in that middle chicane. So Lando Norris, will see how close he'll be under braking into turn 1 as Max leads Piastri. Still in that DRS Piastri. He is gaining in the slipstream of Verstappen through the second and last sector, but the sector 1 is really where he's losing time, of course, where you need that grip, where you lose the downforce, of course, from that dirty air. I know, I take a shot every single time I say dirty air this race, guys. You will not be standing, that's for sure, by come the end of this race here at Jeddah. The offensive dirty on these cars is crazy. No chance of slingshotting around without DRS. We'd love to see them change that for 2026. Well, that is the premise, that is the reason, of course, for the change in regulations, of course. Every time a regulation evolves, you do see dirty air become more prevalent as these teams develop these cars. But a big thank you for everyone tuning in, by the way. If you're just tuning in to us, what has occurred here at Jeddah? We had a very early safety car on the first lap due to a collision with Yuki Tsunoda and Pierre Gasly. That also resulted, well, didn't result. It resulted in a safety car, but we saw Max Verstappen and Piastri go side by side into the first corner, and Piastri got ahead at the apex. Max Verstappen held onto the position by leaving the track and gaining an advantage, and well, due to that, the stewards deemed him to be at fault, and he has now got a 5-second time penalty. Piastri is 1 second behind Verstappen. As it currently stands, as Albon is being told, just think about your gap to the car ahead with any overheating at the front. As Albon's getting pretty bolshy on the radio again, as we have seen this season from Alex Albon, stating, "Do you not see I've got a car behind me in the form of Isaac Hadjar?" So being told to manage at this moment in time, but Norris, let's go on board with him on the hard compound tyre, trying to go long in this race. He's now within the DRS of Lewis Hamilton and he's closing up that gap to the Ferrari of Lewis. It is only a matter of time, you do presume, until he dispatches him. A 34-0 last time out for Lando Norris on the hard compounds in the dirty air of the Ferrari. That was a lap time that was equal to Max Verstappen at the front in clean air, as Piastri actually went quicker than anyone else out on circuit last lap with a 33.80. So Lando Norris going very nicely at the moment lap time wise, but he needs to dispatch Lewis Hamilton as quick as possible. It seems like that Piastri again loses 3 tenths in that first sector. That's about the average, but he keeps losing in the wake of that Red Bull of Max Verstappen. But he does gain down this back straight. I guess it's just about keeping the pressure on Max, but we know keeping the pressure on Max doesn't necessarily work because Max doesn't make mistakes. Ultra consistent, of course, the Dutchman, but I guess that's all you can do. And with that 5-second time penalty that he will have to take at his one and only pit stop, Piastri will leapfrog him, barring a poor strategy decision or a poor pit stop. But Hamilton and Norris closest out on circuit at the moment, as Lando Norris may even get his position done before they head into turn 27, the last corner. And let's see if Lando Norris goes for it. He's in the slipstream with Lewis Hamilton. He's got DRS open, or does he just be patient here? No, it looks like he's going side by side to him. No. Is he? He does. Lando, bold there, gets ahead of Hamilton before the last corner. Is that the right decision, as Lewis Hamilton will have DRS and can potentially get back past Lando down into the first corner? And I think he's going to do it, Lewis Hamilton. And, well, you do suspect, is that the correct decision from Lando there? No, it's not. Why did Lando not just wait? Racing brain, Lando, honestly. Why did you overtake him down into turn 27? You don't have the pace necessarily with DRS of Lewis Hamilton in that Ferrari to maintain that position. And now Norris is about to spend another lap behind the Ferrari driver there. Not entirely sure why he decided to do that. Should have held back, lifted off the throttle and waited for that overtake down into the first corner. Poor decision making there from Lando Norris. Just one of the many poor decisions that he has made at the start of this season. Of course, some worse than others, but just an insight into not entirely sure what he's trying to do there. But yes, Lando still in the slipstream of Hamilton at the moment. We'll stay on board with him as this is the closest battle out on track at the moment. Let's see if he's learned from his mistake and see if he tries to implement the same thing. And if he does, then I kind of lost a bit of hope, to be honest with you, when it comes to wheel-to-wheel racing for Lando Norris. Piastri in P2. He is a lot closer to Verstappen this time around, but loses it out of the last corner under traction in the wake of that Red Bull, and trying to avoid staying dirty air as much as possible, but it really is prevalent here, and you can see it out of those slow corners. As Norris has done it again. What is he doing? Lando's done it again. He's given DRS back to Lewis Hamilton. Lewis Hamilton, rinse and repeat, is going to overtake Norris down into turn 1. What are you doing? I am so sorry, ladies and gentlemen, but this is idiotic from Lando Norris right now. What is he doing? What are you doing? You hold twice. What's the description of insanity? Doing the same thing over and over again and expecting the same result. Expecting a different result. Honestly, sort it out. He spends another lap behind Lewis Hamilton, and Antonelli is able to pull out a further gap to Lewis Hamilton. That gap now 3.5 seconds. Not entirely sure what Lando is deciding to do. Let's see. Third time's a charm as he's heading down the second sector and see if he decides to learn from it this time around. Unbelievable. The gap now to Verstappen and Piastri has just increased slightly as Piastri 1.3 seconds back from Verstappen. Not entirely sure if that's by design or whether or not if they are just telling him to, not sure if that's by design, if just Piastri is starting to fall off a little bit, or whether the team have just told him to just sit back in that window because Max Verstappen does have that 5-second time penalty. Right, here we go again, ladies and gentlemen. Lando Norris, has he learnt his lesson? Let's see. DRS open as they head down into turn 27. Please tell me you've learnt your lesson, Lando. He's 3 tenths back from Lewis Hamilton. He finally sits in under the rear wing of Lewis Hamilton. He's got the grip. He's got better traction than Lewis out of the last corner. Yes, the McLaren does have a bit more drag than the Ferrari, it seems. But with DRS open and the slipstream, he should be able to dispatch Lewis Hamilton. And he does at the third time of asking. Unbelievable. That should have been the first time of asking. Lando finally gets ahead of Lewis Hamilton. He has a bit of clean air ahead of him as Lawson also gets past Alonso and is now only a few seconds behind his teammate Isaac Hadjar, fighting for those points positions. But look at the gap now. Lando's just pulled out on Lewis Hamilton as he's got out of the dirty air of that Ferrari. Should have been already on the back of Antonelli, who is 3 seconds further up the road. But yes, a bit as Norris is now told by his engineer, Strate, play the game. As yes, that is the nature of this circuit. You don't necessarily make an overtake into the last corner because of how powerful DRS is down into turn 1. But let's have a rundown of the grid as it currently stands. 15 laps completed of this Jeddah circuit. Max Verstappen leads, but only for the meantime, because he will lose the lead with that 5-second time penalty that he has to take at the pit stop, as Piastri is in P2, 1.4 seconds behind. Well, 1.3 seconds behind. George Russell is 4 seconds but further back from them in P3, maintaining a gap of around 2.8 seconds of Charles Leclerc in P4. Antonelli, 3.3 seconds further back from Charles Leclerc, is in P5. Lando Norris finally overtook Lewis Hamilton at the third time of asking. Down into the first corner is in P6 after starting on the hard compound tyre. He's up 4 positions at the moment and is planning to go long in this race on the alternative strategy. Lewis Hamilton in P7 where he started. Carlos Sainz down 2 places in P8 as Alex Albon is up 2 places in P9. Hadjar is up 4 positions into P10 as Lawson is up 1 position in P11. Alonso up into P12. Behrman also up 2 positions in P13. Stroll 14th, Hulkenberg 15th, Doohan 16th, Ocon is 17th, and Bortoletto is 18th. And Yuki Tsunoda and Pierre Gasly both crashed out on the first lap due to a collision, and they are both retired from this race. Oof. Oscar has this race. He will have clean air after the first stop. Well, this is it, isn't it? This is it. So he's losing a bit of time, though, to Max Verstappen, consistently losing 3 temps in that first sector. 34.3 Max Verstappen has done. I've lost count of how many laps Max has done of 34.3 in that first sector now, as well as Oscar Piastri with a 34.6. So he is starting to lose a bit of time to Max, or is this him just dropping back consciously to get into a window of just managing his tyres a bit more? That may be the case, of course. Just a waiting game, really, for Oscar Piastri right now with that penalty that Max has to take at his pit stop. Charles Leclerc is trying to close the gap a little bit to George Russell, 2.7 seconds back. He was a tenth quicker last time around. We'll see as they cross the line here whether or not he's able to close that gap on Russell again, or whether it's management. No, they're all kind of doing equal laps at the moment. As Lewis is reporting, I'm just sliding around out here, mate. I can't turn the rears. So that's been the story of Lewis's really weekend here at Jeddah. Not really able to get in control of that Ferrari, especially the rear of the car. Why the penalty for Max Verstappen? If you didn't tune into the start of this race, Oscar Piastri had a great start and got alongside and ahead of Max Verstappen down into turn 1. As the current racing rules in F1 state, if you are ahead at the apex, it is your corner. It is up to the guy on the outside to give up that position. You cannot hold on to that position. What Max did is that he thought he was ahead at the apex. He thought Piastri just forced him off and had no intention of maintaining that corner or trying to go around that corner. And, well, Max took to the escape road between turn 1 and turn 2, which is a chicane, and he held on to that position. The stewards deemed that he was wrong in doing so. He wasn't ahead at the apex, and that is why he has a 5-second time penalty. So, yes, that is why that is the current situation with Max Verstappen, and Lando Norris is closing up. Look how quickly he has closed up that gap to Antonelli. That McLaren is very quick in clean air, and it does make you wonder, why did Lando take 3 times of asking to get past Lewis Hamilton? He could already have overtaken Kimi Antonelli. We'll see if he struggles the same way with Kimi Antonelli and if he deploys the same tactic of trying to overtake into the last corner. Hopefully he has learned his lesson with Lewis Hamilton, but we will see, as he is 1.4 seconds back from Kimi Antonelli now as he is getting into the dirty air window. But a 33.9 is a full second quicker last lap around, Lando Norris was. The only drivers he's not quick as at the moment is Max Verstappen, who has clean air, who is on a softer compound tyre on the mediums. So that gap to Piastri now 2.5 seconds. So Piastri needs to be careful here and not drop back too far. Of course, Piastri, no doubt, will probably pick up the pace once Max Verstappen does pit. We'll see whether or not he decides to go long here, Piastri. You do presume that he will just wait for Verstappen to pit, look after these tyres, and then put on the afterburners in clean air, which we know that McLaren is very, very quick in. McLaren is quick and they're going to win everything this season. Do not say never, as don't say that, because there's a very long way to go in this race. But at the moment, we haven't seen too many overtaking opportunities, as Lando Norris is now within the DRS of Antonelli. So let's see if Lando has learned from what he struggled with Lewis Hamilton. Not overtaking into the last corner and then allowing that driver to get DRS back past him into turn one. He learned it on the third time of asking. Of course, Antonelli is bleeding a bit of time, it seems, to those top four. He is clearly the slowest driver at the moment in that top five of Verstappen, Piastri, Russell and Leclerc and himself. But let's see, as Norris does get very close to the rear of Antonelli there, so not close enough to have an opportunity to overtake, but maybe this is by design, as it should be pretty much done and dusted here. It should be signed, sealed and delivered for Lando Norris. But how quick is that Mercedes in a straight line? DRS open for Lando Norris. How hard is Antonelli going to fight? Of course, he is a racer, he is young, he is aggressive, but can he hold off the McLaren of Lando? No, he cannot, as Lando Norris moves up into P5 on the hard compound tyre. Lando Norris in that top five. Damage limitation race for him. Of course, he's gained 2 freebies from Yuki Tsunoda and Pierre Gasly. As we have our first pitter here. We have seen Doohan Ocon and Bortoletto pit already, but that was on the first lap. But we have Ollie Behrman pitting, and well, he is going to be going on to the hard compound tyre, no doubt. You can see Doohan, Ocon and Bortoletto have gained track position there on the undercut on Ollie Behrman, and Ollie Behrman has lost quite a considerable amount of time. But how much tyre drop-off has there been on the hard compound of Doohan, Ocon and Bortoletto, who are no doubt considering going to the end of this race? I don't presume they'll probably do a second stop. Maybe they will here at Jeddah, but that gap at the fronts, with 19 laps, which we are currently on, the 19th lap about to be completed. Max Verstappen leads from Oscar Piastri, 2.8 seconds at the moment, 2.9 seconds with that 5-second time penalty. George Russell in P3, 5.8 seconds back. A lonely race for him at the moment, as Charles Leclerc is closing down that gap on George Russell. 2 seconds now, Charles Leclerc. The gap is to George Russell. It seems that George Russell, as Piastri's pitting. Bold call from Oscar Piastri. They are pitting. Oscar Piastri pitting quite early here. Where is he going to come out? Where is Oscar Piastri going to come out? Is he coming out ahead of Antonelli? He is coming out ahead of Antonelli. Is he going to come out ahead of Hamilton, as Antonelli also pits as well? And wow, okay, so I thought they might wait. For Max Verstappen. Will Max respond? This is the question. Piastri, you do think, would be able to get past Lewis Hamilton pretty sharpish, as Lewis Hamilton is struggling. It's not quite the... we're seeing pit stops now as Antonelli comes out ahead of Lance Stroll. That's a great pit stop by Mercedes. They've found a bit of a gap for him. But it's not quite done and dusted here for Piastri with this outlap. Of course, Verstappen has that 5-second time penalty. But Piastri, if he can get past Hamilton, if they think Hamilton might be pitting, Piastri might be able to take advantage here. Of course, if there is a red flag or a safety car pretty soon, Norris will gain a bit on his teammate, as there is currently a 7-second gap between Norris and Piastri as it currently stands. Max could go longer. He could potentially go longer. Yes, he could do. He could try and extend this. They are looking for a gap, of course, as it currently stands. The pit stop window was 19.5 seconds, so as it means at the moment, it's a bit tight, really, for Verstappen. I mean, with that 5-second time penalty, he would end up out. So his pit stop window is looking at 25 seconds. He would come out behind Piastri and in between Carlos Sainz. But if they have a slow pit stop in itself, it would be potentially them coming out behind Carlos Sainz as well and getting involved in that Albon and Hadjar battle, as Hadjar is all over the back of Alex Albon as it currently stands, as Piastri sets the fastest middle sector out of anyone and is already, and the last sector, and is already on the rear of Lewis Hamilton. But of course, he is going to be losing a bit of time. Very tricky to overtake here in certain areas of this Jeddah circuit. How much more grip does he have than Lewis Hamilton, who is struggling on that set of mediums? Will Piastri be bold and potentially try and get past Lewis into turn 13? Let's see how bold the Aussie is, shall we? As we are seeing pit stops as George Russell comes out in between Alex Albon and Carlos Sainz there. That's a good pit stop from them, as Sainz we would be expecting is pitting soon. So pit stops being made here. The one and only pit stop we do expect here at the Jeddah circuit, as Piastri isn't close enough to Lewis Hamilton to get past him, as Lewis Hamilton actually does his fastest first sector of the race, which is not what Oscar Piastri wanted to probably see. But you can see he's all over the back of him now. This is not ideal for Oscar Piastri, as he's just bleeding time here under the rear wing of that Ferrari, but he will get past him, no doubt, and it will be probably beneficial for Oscar Piastri to get past Lewis into turn 27 because he has that extra grip. He might not even think about turn 27. No, Piastri with that extra grip gets past Lewis into turn 22. Oh, Oscar, what a move, what a move, as Verstappen now pits. Verstappen's pitting, so here we go. How much time has Piastri lost? As Lewis Hamilton's coming back past Piastri here, potentially into turn 27. This is not what Oscar wants at all. As Lewis Hamilton, they go side by side, and well, Piastri does maintain a position, but how long will he maintain it? As Lewis thought, I'll have a go back at you, Oscar. And well, Piastri will come out ahead of Max Verstappen, but that he has lost a considerable amount of time there. Piastri stuck behind Hamilton, and that gap is not as large as McLaren would like it to be, but he will have clean air, and we know how difficult it is to overtake here at Jeddah, and we have seen Piastri get stuck behind Verstappen. Well, now Verstappen's got to get past Piastri. We'll see whether or not he's going to be quick enough or not, as Sainz dives into the pits as well. Lando Norris going very well here at the moment. Charles Leclerc also yet to pit. The Ferraris are extending here. Lando Norris in P2. Of course, if there's a late safety car, if there is a red flag here, then, well, Lando Norris would be in first place. But Charles Leclerc leads at the moment, still yet to make a pit stop from Lando. Oscar Piastri now ahead of Max Verstappen in P3, with Hamilton in between him and Verstappen. But that gap is at the moment, what is that gap? 1.3, 1.5. What are my maths at the moment? He's 3.7 seconds. So how much of a gap can Piastri pull on Verstappen in clean air at the moment? Because he's got a sizable gap to his teammate, who's 7 seconds ahead. Of course, they need to take these hard compound tyres to the end, which they do think they will easily be able to do. Carlos Sainz, update for him. He's come out behind Bortoleto, who he is racing for position. So that pit stop there for Williams, I am wondering what their thinking is, because he has to overtake out on track Bortoleto, Jack Doohan and Esteban Ocon. Now, he does have 20-lap younger tyres, which you do presume he will be able to use advantage of to get past them. But that's not ideal for Carlos Sainz, and that could potentially cost him a position to the RB drivers or Alex Albon. Well, Alex Albon's now pitting as well. So we'll see if Williams, where that brings Alex Albon out to. Is Liam Lawson going to be up behind Alex Albon by the time they come around, as Lawson is on his second lap on this set of hard compound tyres, as Leclerc and Norris are continuing as we expected from Lando Norris on that hard compound tyre. Leclerc on the medium still, 33.636 for him last time around. That's not too bad from Leclerc on those mediums. George Russell, 33.6 for him in P6. Max Verstappen coming a bit unstuck behind Lewis Hamilton at the moment, as Lewis Hamilton is holding up Max, but Max is going for a move through turn 13. Hamilton and Verstappen, the old rivals, and Hamilton holds off Max Verstappen into turn 16 there. They were side by side, Lewis Hamilton and Max Verstappen. Of course, we have been not seeing these two really race for position too often in the last few years, as Hamilton holds off Max Verstappen just a bit longer, and Piastri will probably buy Lewis Hamilton a drink after this for holding him off. Of course, he held himself up, but Max, you do think will be able to easily get past Lewis as he heads down into turn 27. But Lewis seems to be getting a bit punchy today. It seems to be he's his fights are a little bit few and far between. Will Lewis have the grip out of the last corner, potentially come back at Max? I mean, he could do, as Piastri sets the fastest lap of the race of 33.119. And no, Lewis Hamilton dived into the pit lane. So that is it for Lewis Hamilton. And that Max Verstappen battle there. But that was interesting. That was a bit interesting. No easy passes here from Lewis Hamilton. Indeed, indeed. A big thank you for everyone tuning in, by the way. Over 11,000 of you here in the stream right now. Continue to hit that like and subscribe button. Trying to hit 45,000 subs. It'd be much appreciated. But yes, if you're just joining us, what an interesting race it's been. Not a bit of overtaking out on circuit. Max Verstappen lost P1 due to a 5-second time penalty that he was afforded as the penalty has been served. Noted, Max Verstappen has served his 5-second time penalty. So confirmation there that he has served that in his one and only pit stop. But Oscar Piastri now in clean air, pulling out the gap to Max Verstappen. 4 seconds the gap is to Piastri and Verstappen now. Verstappen, we'll see how he gets on this hard compound tyre. The Red Bull, bit of unknown, the Red Bull on this hard compound. The medium might have been a bit better for him. That's Max Verstappen. If you're wondering why he got that 5-second time penalty, it was because he was not ahead at the apex, because Oscar Piastri got ahead of him down into turn 1. Max held on to the position after taking to the escape road. And well, as the racing rules currently are, if you don't give that position back when you were not ahead at the apex, I don't like that rule, then you are deemed to be at fault, gaining an advantage, and you get a penalty. And that's what Max was given, as Oscar Piastri follows up another fastest lap here with a 32.760. Of course, Lando going long on this tyre at the moment, on the hard compound tyre. He is in P2. He is hoping, with 26 laps remaining, that there is a late red flag or a safety car that he can get a cheap pit stop. But he does seem to have some good pace here. He was P5 before the pit stops were being made. So you do presume on the medium compound tyre at the end, that McLaren will have enough to give him a good recovery drive here this weekend and damage limitation. But as it currently stands, Piastri is net P1 and he would be your championship leader after this weekend, as Bortoleto is overtaken by Liam Lawson there down into turn 1. So Alex Albon came out just ahead of Liam Lawson. Bortoleto also loses a position to Fernando Alonso, and I think he's losing a position to... No, they're still side by side, Alonso and Bortoleto. This is brave from those drivers there. We saw, of course, Gasly and Tsunoda crash at turn 4 and turn 5, and Bortoleto just holds off Fernando Alonso, who is in P17. Bortoleto looking to go very long on this set of hard compound tyres. He pitted at the end of the first lap, and he's on 23 lap old hards as it currently stands. But the Williams driver as well, Albon, is behind Jack Doohan as it currently is. He's just ahead of Liam Lawson. Isaac Hadjar is still yet to pit, with Antonelli, who has pitted, closing him down. So we'll see where Isaac Hadjar is going to be able to come out. Of course, he's one of the only other drivers to start on the hard compound tyre. The alternative strategy here today. We'll see how it plays out for him. Piastri burning his tyres too quick. I'm not so sure he is, you know. I think it's a case of, as well, Bortoleto and Alonso actually made contact down the start-finish straight there. Oh my God, that could have been a very big crash. So there is still potential here for safety cars as Ocon's about to be overtaken by Carlos Sainz. I think it is Carlos Sainz, though, the wise head that he has on his shoulders, wait patiently for that DRS down the start-finish straight. Something that Lando Norris should have done the first time around when he was fighting Lewis Hamilton, as Alex Albon got past that Jack Doohan comfortably there, using that tyre advantage that he has as Sainz gets past Esteban Ocon down into turn 1. Ocon, one of the drivers to also pit at the end of the first lap there. As Fernando Alonso and Bortoleto are going at it again down into turn 1. They made contact last time out, and this time around it doesn't seem to be so, as Alonso on those fresher tyres does make the move stick for 16th position. So not very good race thus far for Fernando Alonso, but still a long way to go as Piastri is set another fastest middle sector. I'm not sure Piastri is burning his tyres up, ladies and gentlemen. I think it's just a case that Piastri in that McLaren, he has clean air now, and that is the genuine pace of that McLaren on a track surface where tyre degradation isn't really too much of a factor here this weekend. It's a very smooth surface at the Jeddah circuit, hence why we've got a step softer than last year, but Not really looking like this is going to be a two-stop race today, unless we have another safety car and drivers decide to go on a set of softs. Noted, Bortoleto and Alonso, it did look like Bortoleto moved under braking there. So I think he was a bit preoccupied with Lawson overtaking him and Alonso trying to pip him there. Would the Williams have to pit again? No, they should not have to pit again. Is Leclerc trying to go long on mediums, then pop on a set of softs to sprint in the end? Potentially. He could be. Yeah, potentially. I mean, Leclerc's just gone fastest in the first sector, by the way. That is very, very good first sector for Charles Leclerc. Purple there, a 34.105. So these mediums working very nicely for Charles Leclerc at the moment. Have the others maybe pulled the gun a bit too early on their mediums as Verstappen goes fastest and takes that first sector time away from Charles Leclerc. He's been very quick there all weekend as Behrman now dispatches Bortoleto down into turn one. A poor weekend for Bortoleto, struggling in that Stake F1 car. The Stake F1 car struggling in general. Hulkenberg is up in P10 at the moment, but he has 26 lap old hards. A very long way for him to take those hard compound tyres to the end, especially with Sainz and Albon close behind them on much fresher tyres. But as it currently stands, Charles Leclerc, is he going to pit anytime soon? Hamilton's pitted. He's going to the end now on the set of hards, but Leclerc is still quicker than Lewis Hamilton, who is on fresh, hard tyres. Sorry, not Verstappen. Leclerc is still staying out there. Lando Norris, is he closing the gap on Leclerc, though? 3.3 seconds now the gap is. Lando Norris to Charles Leclerc. 27 laps completed on that set of tyres as we are on the 28th lap right now. Oscar Piastri, 4.5 seconds. The gap is pretty much to his teammate, or the gap is slightly closing there. Sorry, 4.3 now. 4.6 seconds the gap is from Piastri to Max Verstappen. Russell, a further 4 seconds back as well. And, well, with Leclerc and Norris still yet to make a pit stop, maybe goal hanging for a safety car or a red flag, as is the nature here at Jeddah. That's a bit tricky to see where that may come at the moment. I mean, Sainz is looking at an overtake on Nico Hulkenberg, and Ocon's under attack from Alex Albon. So anytime drivers go side by side through here, there is a possibility of something occurring as Hulkenberg is under attack from Sainz. Albon gets past Ocon before he even heads into the first corner, and Sainz gets ahead of Hulkenberg just through the first chicane there. They were side by side for a brief moment, and Sainz, well, looking to make progression now and head on to Lance Stroll. And bag some important points here for Williams. Could be double points on the cards here for the Williams team today, as Stroll is on 28 lap old hards and he's trying to just goal hang himself for a safety car. Lots of goal hanging happening out here, guys, right now. Why is Yuki out? So if you're just tuning in, guys, what happened at the start of this race is that Max Verstappen and Oscar Piastri went side by side into the first corner, and Oscar Piastri was ahead, and Max Verstappen held on to the position because he left the track and was deemed to have gained an advantage. Because of that, Max got a 5-second time penalty, which is why he is now behind Piastri. But only a few corners later, in turn 4 and turn 5, Gasly was making an audacious move around the outside of Yuki Tsunoda. However, Yuki carried a bit too much speed, and their wheels interlocked, and they both ended up out of the race on lap 1. So yes, that is what has happened to Yuki Tsunoda and Pierre Gasly. We brought out an early safety car for us, and then we got going again pretty swiftly as Jack Doohan is coming under attack from Fernando Alonso at the moment. Antonelli closing down Isaac Hadjar, who's still yet to make a pit stop. Well, you can see there, Piastri in clean air is just slightly quicker than that of Max Verstappen. But the quickest man on track at the moment, well, last time around was Lewis Hamilton, but are the two Ferrari drivers. They are the quickest drivers out on track at the moment. Leclerc, a 33.368, 28 lap old mediums, and he's still lapping as quick as Lando Norris on a set of hard compound tyres. A green middle sector there for Charles Leclerc. As the fuel is burning off this car, Charles Leclerc's car is getting quicker in that Ferrari. This is very unique circumstances here, guys. Normally you see the lap times fall off, and those tyres fall off, but at Jeddah, with that smooth surface that we have here, tyre degradation, isn't really that big of a factor, if any. Lewis forgot to wear his winning helmet. Max has no chance, or he would have had to crash his car into Piastri. Well, he wasn't ahead at the apex. I don't like it, as Charles Leclerc now does decide to pit. Charles Leclerc decides to pit, and Lando Norris is your leader. He's still yet to make a pit stop, of course, but Lando Norris is your leader. This is what McLaren were hoping for, and if there is a red flag right now, Lando Norris would inherit the lead. As the red flag rules state, you are able to change your tyres free of charge under red flag conditions. So McLaren will be praying potentially for a red flag now, as it would bag a 1-2 for them, of course. It would be unfair on Oscar Piastri, but that is the nature of the red flag rules. Sometimes drivers benefit from it, and sometimes drivers lose from it. So we will see if that is going to occur. There's a few battles out on track at the moment. Antonelli has got past Isaac Hadjar now. So Antonelli back up into P6. Charles Leclerc slotted out behind George Russell. So Charles Leclerc has quite a considerable margin on George Russell with tyre life. So George Russell 9 laps older than that of Charles Leclerc. So we'll see if that advantage, even though there is not a lot of deck here, whether that does help Charles Leclerc in his aspirations to get past George Russell and potentially get a podium position here today, because Norris does still have to pit, as we know. But Norris still going quite nicely on those hard compound tyres. 33.259 last time around. His teammate was 4 tenths quicker than him, and Oscar Piastri is maintaining that gap of 4.6 seconds to Max Verstappen. Leclerc is on the hard compound tyre. Yeah, it seems like the softs just won't go that long, 20-odd laps to the end of this race. So the hard compound tyre does seem to be a suitable race tyre here today, as Norris goes past the start-finish line with a 33.1, and Piastri does a 32.938. Starting to see a lot of issues, though, with drivers locking up and taking to the escape road down into turn 1. So a few more track limits violations have popped up here for Bortoletto. Antonelli now on 2, Lawson on 2 as well, down into that turn 1 section. It's the only area really you can kind of exceed track limits here as they head down into that turn 1 corner. Antonelli, as Stroll is under pressure here by Carlos Sainz down into the last corner. Carlos Sainz, who's used his racing head here this week, unlike some other drivers that we saw earlier on, Lando Norris, and is waiting patiently for that DRS down the start-finish straight, using that advantage that he has in that extra level of grip and pace down into turn 1, and comfortably gets past Lance Stroll into turn 1. Carlos Sainz up into P9, and well, he's technically in a net P8 at the moment, with Isaac Hadjar still yet to make a pit stop as well. Lando Norris fastest in the first sector on 30-lap-old hards. Unbelievable how long these tyres are lasting for at the moment, and the pace that they can still put out. But Piastri is closing that gap, 3.1 seconds to Lando Norris at the moment. He knows his teammate has to pit, but he would like to force the issue and ask for team orders with different strategies for him to get that first place, because if there is a red flag, he will maintain that first place position. Clean air is truly king. It is indeed. It is indeed. Is it me or the cars are going really slow? Also, hi from Germany. Welcome, Owen. They're not going slow. No, by any means. They are not going slow here at this Jeddah circuit. As George Russell set the fastest middle sector there out of anyone, a 29.0, 33.0 from him. As Charles Leclerc goes fastest lap out of anyone there, 32.441. That gap to George Russell is 2.8 seconds, 2.7 seconds at the moment. He took 6 tenths out of George Russell there in that last lap. Can Charles Leclerc keep up this pace on the Mercedes driver? We will see. We'll keep an eye on that gap as Alex Albon gets past Lance Stroll down into turn the last corner, sorry. Will Lance Stroll have enough grip to come back at him? I don't think so. That Aston Martin is a bit of a tractor at the moment. Was Lewis Hamilton track limits there as well at turn 1. So, sorry, track limits at turn 22. Sorry, we're seeing track limits at turn 1 and turn 22 through both chicanes, really. Turn 22 and turn 23. Quite a severe change in direction there, especially at the speeds these drivers are going at. But interestingly, Norris on those tyres is maintaining a consistent gap to Piastri. Piastri gaining a little bit through that middle chicane, you can see. Turn 22, 23 and 24, a 29.2 for him last time around, as well as Norris. You're talking hundredths of a second difference, really. But yes, Piastri starting to close up a little bit. Sorry, I was thinking that gap was maintaining, but Piastri in the middle sector seems to be gaining a little bit on Norris, and yeah, even at that last corner. So ignore me there, yes. Why not mediums for Leclerc? Because he started on the medium compound tyre. By the rules of F1, you have to mandatory use 2 tyre compounds. So that is why, yes, he is why he is on the hard compound tyre as it currently stands. But I hope you guys are enjoying the stream, by the way. If you can continue to hit that like and subscribe. I'm nearly at 41k. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Welcome to everyone who continues to tune back into these streams. I hope you have been enjoying them. We have 18 laps remaining in this Jeddah Grand Prix. It's not been the most exciting, has it? I did presume that it might be a bit of a boring race today, but... we need a bit more. We need something else here. Max Verstappen's 5-second time penalty has kind of made this race a bit of a damp squib as it currently stands. But let's see if there's a last spanner in the works here at Jeddah. There is still potential. Anytime a car goes side by side, or cars go side by side, as Esteban Ocon is under attack from Liam Lawson now down into turn 1. There is potential, of course, for something to occur as Charles Leclerc is pumping fast lap after fastest lap as it currently stands, with him doing a 32.4. He is closing down that gap to Russell as it's 2.2 seconds now. Charles Leclerc on George Russell. Max Verstappen, a fastest first sector for him, but that gap to Piastri is 4.7 seconds at this moment in time. McLaren car is crazy. It's the quickest car in clean air. We knew that. It's essential for them to lock out the front row, but they've only done it once this season at the moment, Norris and Piastri, and that is in Australia. Since then, they haven't been on the front row together. But yes, would we even see a true battle between the teammates? Who knows? We haven't seen anything since Australia, but that was in mixed conditions, of course. But yeah, it'd be great to see if this was a genuine race right now, but Lando Norris still has to make a pit stop, so he will drop further down the field. It is about an average of a 19-second pit stop lost time here. So Charles, he would come out 5 seconds behind Charles Leclerc as it currently stands, or 4 seconds behind Charles Leclerc. He is hoping for... Piastri is stating, I'm starting to feel the dirty air a little bit, as he's 2.3 seconds back from Lando. That is how far back these drivers feel the dirty air of the cars ahead is even as far back as 2 seconds. That's absolutely unreal. As Nico Hulkenberg cannot make those hard compound tyres last to the end, and he is pitting off of those tyres on 33 lap old hards, potentially holding out for a safety car. They were very early on, similar to Jack Doohan and Bortoletto and Lance Stroll as well. And well, as they are now outside of the points and no opportunity to gain points, it makes sense for them to now dive into the pit lane and get onto some fresh tyres, as George Russell is responding to that gap of Charles Leclerc, closing a fastest first sector for George Russell there, but he's losing considerable amount of time, a couple of attempts, 3 attempts almost last time around, or this time around in the first sector to Charles Leclerc, as Lando Norris now pits. Lando now pits, so there is no opportunity for Lando to win this race today with a red flag. But it would just be Lando's luck, wouldn't it, if a red flag is now thrown just after he makes this pit stop. He comes out behind Charles Leclerc, and well, he will be on the quicker, fresher, medium compound tyre. He's not too far behind Charles Leclerc and George Russell. That podium is still on for today. My prediction of Piastri P1, Verstappen P2 and Norris P3, there is still a potential of it, as Isaac Hadjar also pits as well. He follows Lando into the pits, and that releases Lewis Hamilton to potentially close down the driver who replaced him at Mercedes in the form of Antonelli. But it looks like Lewis's pace is equal, if not just a touch slower than that of Antonelli. But he was in the dirty air of Isaac Hadjar, so we'll see if Lewis can put the afterburners on that Ferrari. Isaac Hadjar, though, what a drive it has been from him at the moment. A good start from him, gaining a couple of positions in that Ferrari that was Gasly and Tsunoda's collision, and he's up in the point-scoring positions in P10. His teammate is a few seconds back as well in P12, but at the moment, Sainz and Albon in P8 and 9. But now everyone has made a pit stop. Let's have a run-through of your grid at the moment, guys. It is Oscar Piastri leading this race after he inherited the lead because of a 5-second time penalty for leaving the track and gaining an advantage at the very first corner of this race, which was Max Verstappen on Oscar Piastri. There's a black and white flag for Bortoletto for moving under braking. That's never a good flag to be thrown there. So Bortoletto needs to be careful, although he is a very lonely race pretty much for him as he's currently in P16. But yes, Max Verstappen in P2. George Russell, as we know, quietly going about his business today, but is quickly being closed down upon by Charles Leclerc, who has 9 lap old, fresher hard compound tyres. You can see they're purple. Fastest lap for Charles Leclerc last time there. No longer do you gain a point for fastest lap here, so it's purely just an ego and pride thing to get fastest lap. But importantly for Charles Leclerc, that was 6 tenths quicker than George Russell last time around. He is going to be in the DRS of that Mercedes this lap he will be as he heads down into turn 13. Lando Norris, who has pitted onto the medium compound tyre, will keep an eye out on his progression. He's currently 5.6 seconds back from Charles Leclerc and George Russell. He's hoping to try and damage limitation today and get a podium position, up 5 places at the moment in P5. Antonelli in P6, down a place. Struggled here. It's been an okay race for him, but he's not had the pace of his teammate. It seems the Mercedes hasn't actually been that good on race pace as maybe many predicted, myself included. Lewis Hamilton in P7, where he started. A lonely race for him. Struggled here all this weekend, as you know. Sainz is currently in P8. He's looking to... Sainz is in P8 and is looking to round off a double point scoring race for Williams with Albon in P9. Hadjar, we mentioned, is up 4 positions in P10. Stroll up 5 positions in P11, still yet to make a pit stop. Sorry, he is goal hanging, but not sure if he will get what he wants as Lawson is closing down on him. Alonso in 13th, Ocon up 5 places in 14th, Behrman 15th, Bortoletto 16th, Hulkenberg 17th, Doohan 18th, and Tsunoda and Gasly are out of this race. But you can see there, Lando Norris, fastest middle sector out of anyone on that medium compound tyre. And sets a 32.432 for him. It's 3 tenths quicker than Leclerc and 5 tenths quicker than George Russell, but not as quick as maybe you would expect. But that is only his second lap on those mediums. So these tyres do get quicker, as we have seen, as the race goes on, as the fuel burns off. With the low degradation that we have here, it takes a little while for these tyres to come up to temperature. And well, Charles Leclerc not able to overtake George Russell will have an opportunity on George Russell down into turn 1 last time around, but he is in the dirty air now. But how can that tricky Ferrari, we've seen it be a bit of a handful here this weekend, Charles Leclerc wringing the neck out of that Ferrari, doing wonders in the last few races. He is right under the rear wing of the Mercedes, so it depends on whether that tyre advantage that he has, he'll be able to utilise it on George Russell with that dirty air that he is currently having to deal with. And Liam Lawson just got past Lance Stroll there and is currently in P11, but without any more pit stops to be made, as incident involving Lawson and Doohan is under investigation, so not entirely sure what happened there. Maybe a poor rejoin from someone, Liam Lawson potentially, into turn 1, we will see. But Charles Leclerc, let's stay on board with Charles Leclerc as Norris is closing down that gap, only 5 seconds back from Charles Leclerc now. But Charles Leclerc, has he got the grip out of the last corner? It looks like he does. He has DRS. He's 3 tenths behind George Russell at the moment. How hard will the Mercedes of George Russell be able to defend this as Charles Leclerc sets the fastest lap of the race? They're side by side as they head into the braking zone of turn 1. And Charles Leclerc, has he got the move done on George Russell? We know he defends hard, George, here. But with 9 lap older tyres than that of Charles Leclerc in the Ferrari, he cannot hold him off. And well, Charles Leclerc will now look to break free from the Mercedes of George Russell, because no doubt breathing down their necks very soon with 13 laps remaining is Lando Norris. That was important for Charles to not waste any more time there on George. At the first time of asking, the first overtaking opportunity he got, he took it, and well, that is very important for him. He's currently in a very, very good podium position now for the Ferrari team, if he's able to hold on to this. George Russell has already lost a bit of time there. You can see 1.4 seconds back from Charles Leclerc, and Norris, with those two going side by side into the first corner, Norris gained 2 seconds on them in that first sector, pretty much alone. Actually, that overtake was a little bit more simple than I made it out to be, as George Russell had no answer to the pace that Charles Leclerc had. But yes, you can see there a 35.9, a 33.9 first sector for Russell and Norris. So Norris, yes, gained 2 seconds on George Russell in that first sector alone. So he is struggling at the moment, George Russell, on that hard compound tyre. Hello Web, good to see you. Welcome everyone. Hope you're enjoying this stream. I hope you're enjoying this watch along. Over 12,000 of you, nearly 13,000 of you here in this stream, and only more of you joining. If you are new to this stream, please hit that like and subscribe. And as Lawson's been given a 10-second time penalty for leaving the track and gaining an advantage. Oh dear, Liam Lawson. I'll tell you what, he is gathering a considerable amount of penalties the last few races, isn't he? He got 2 penalties for causing a collision last time out, as Lance Stroll is told to let Fernando Alonso past or not. Bit of a mistake there, I think, or miscommunication from Lance Stroll and Alonso. Are they fighting for position?
Lance Stroll just held off Fernando Alonso into turn 22, yet Stroll is still yet to make a pit stop. What happened there? That seemed like Lance Stroll went considerably slow. Is he going to make a pit stop finally, Lance Stroll? No. Lance Stroll is staying out there, and the two Aston Martin drivers are actually fighting for position right now, with Stroll on 38 lap-hold hards. And Alonso, is he going to go for a move on his teammate? They're definitely side by side, the two Aston Martin drivers, as they head through turn 1. And Alonso finally gets the move done on Lance Stroll. Maybe a bit of a lack of communication between the two of them in that middle chicane. Or Alonso just thinking, no, I actually don't want to overtake you here, Stroll, at the moment. But Alonso up into P12 ahead of his teammate. And well, Lawson has a 10-second time penalty. Alonso would inherit P11, but does he have enough to catch up with Hadjar? You don't presume he has, as Isaac Hadjar is actually on the back of the two Williams cars here on the fresher medium compound tyre. This is intriguing, as oh dear, Lando Norris noted failing to follow race director's instructions. Oh no. Oh no. Failing to follow race director's instructions, crossing the line at pit exit. That could be a slam dunk penalty there for Lando Norris. That's a no-no. That is a very big no-no. We have seen penalties dished out for that before. We will see if that is the case. Well, Lando is on the back of George Russell now. He's within that DRS, and he needs to make up time here on George Russell because he could be getting a 5-second time penalty for that. Isaac Hadjar, though, is in the DRS of Alex Albon. Will Sainz hold on to the DRS and support his teammate because of where Isaac Hadjar is? This is going to be an intriguing battle here now for Sainz and for Sainz, Albon and Hadjar, because Hadjar is on the quicker medium compound tyre. As Stroll decides to finally pit. Stroll lasts as long as he possibly can and decides to pit. As Isaac Hadjar is told he will be left alone. It's up to him now, as Norris all over the back of George Russell. Well, will he decide to be patient here, Lando Norris, and wait for that overtake down into the first corner? Or will he be impatient, as we have seen him do thus far, and get past Russell down into turn 27? We will see. Lando Norris, he is patient, it seems. He is patient. Good boy, Lando. You've learned after getting stuck behind Lewis Hamilton for 2 laps in a row, as he will have DRS, will easily be able to overtake the Mercedes of George Russell. George, on those much older, slower, hard compound tyres, cannot fight off the McLaren. And Lando now, I think it's a dash for him to try and pull out a 5-second gap to George Russell to try and hold on to P4. There are 10 laps remaining. Would he be able to catch Charles Leclerc? There is a 4-second gap, potentially. But if he gets that penalty, he might not be able to pull out a large enough gap to get past, to hold on to that position. As Max Verstappen is trying to make a bit of a move on Oscar Piastri here, as Piastri is starting to hit the dirty air window of Doohan and Lance Stroll. So you can see there the first sector, he's just made up half a second on Oscar Piastri there, as Piastri has started to hit the dirty air of Doohan. There should be blue flags, thrown for Jack Doohan right now. I'm not entirely sure why it hasn't been indicated that he has got that, but Piastri will want to get past Doohan as quick as possible. As you can see, that gap to Verstappen is 4.1 seconds at the moment. We'll see if that interval time comes down. 4 seconds now it is in that interval. But Piastri, there you go. Blue flags now thrown for Jack Doohan as Piastri is on his rear wing. Quite difficult, of course, to overtake here. Certain areas that you do not want to get stuck behind a lapped car. Has Max served his penalty? He has indeed. Yes, Max has served his penalty. Everyone has made a pit stop as Lando Norris in clean air. Oh my goodness. What is that middle... That's first and middle sector for Lando Norris. Oh my goodness, what lap is this? This is a 31.7. He's just put half a second on Charles Leclerc there. I looked away, looked back at the screen, and Lando Norris was now not 5 seconds behind, but he's 3.9 seconds behind Charles Leclerc. Wow. So Lando Norris getting a move on here, still being noted, still being investigated for crossing the line at the pit exit. We'll see if that is going to be penalised for Lando Norris. We have seen that be pretty much penalised in the past, as Oscar Piastri has got past Jack Doohan. That gap 4 seconds still to Max Verstappen and Oscar Piastri. Piastri obviously wanting to get past Lance Stroll as soon as possible as well. He'll probably have blue flags at the end of this lap. We'd love to see Piastri winning the World Drivers' Championship, or it'd be annoying to see Zach's arrogance, but it's a fair price to pay. Well, he will be leading the championship at the end of today if he is able to convert this win. 9 laps remaining, well, 8 laps remaining at once he crosses the start-finish line. Oscar Piastri will launch himself into P1. The gap to Verstappen and Norris, I'm not entirely sure. It'd be very close whether or not Verstappen is able to overtake Norris into P2 in the standings. But one thing is for sure is that Oscar, who is currently 3 points, or before the start of today, was 3 points behind Lando Norris, will overtake him and inherit the lead, which is tremendous considering he was 20 points behind Lando after the first race due to that error in Melbourne. So a great recovery for Oscar since Melbourne, that is for sure. But Carlos Sainz still helping Alex Albon hold off Isaac Hadjar, who is on that medium compound tyre. Isaac Hadjar trying to get past Alex Albon. We know how wide Alex Albon has made that Williams in the past. He is not an easy driver to overtake, that is for sure. And especially with the assistance of Sainz's DRS, it's even more so difficult for Hadjar to get that pace advantage, even on those medium compound tyres, and get past Alex Albon. We'll stay on board with those two as Verstappen is trying to get past Jack Doohan, who has those blue flags. Lando Norris 3.4 seconds, 3.5 seconds back from Charles Leclerc now. Not as much of an advantage last time around, 3 tenths. So not the pace advantage that he would like to have over Charles Leclerc at the moment, with those hard compound tyres working quite nicely for Charles Leclerc. He seems like he might just have enough. Of course, catching is one thing, overtaking is another. As Sainz, Albon and Hadjar on wheel to wheel there, or sort of nose to wing, shall we say, as they headed down into turn 1 there, and Hadjar still unable to make any progression. Fastest middle sector for Lando Norris, guys. Purple, he is pushing. He wants that podium position. Still no information on whether or not he is going to be penalised for crossing the white line. Not entirely sure why. No further investigation. So right on cue there, I was about to say I'm not entirely sure why it took him so long. It took him 7 minutes to figure out whether or not Lando Norris crossed the white line or not. Not entirely sure what else they were looking at in that time. But yes, Lando Norris will be able to go for this podium position on Charles Leclerc with 7 laps remaining. We're on the 44th lap here. There will be 6 laps remaining when they come across the start-finish line again. The gap to Piastri and Verstappen is 4 seconds as it currently stands. Charles Leclerc is 5.3 seconds back from Verstappen, so the front two do not have to worry about anything. Piastri is still not able to close up on Lance Stroll at the moment, which is interestingly enough, not able to get back past him. But let's tune in, shall we? Back to Sainz and Albon. Is Isaac Hadjar in the DRS? He is indeed, but he's not really close enough. He needs to be under that half a second range as they get down into the first corner. And well, Sainz is doing God's work here for the Williams team. He is being the proper team player, and he is helping and towing Alex Albon along, and that is allowing Isaac Hadjar to hold. That is allowing Alex Albon to hold off Isaac Hadjar. If he lost the DRS, Alex Albon, you can be guaranteed that Hadjar would easily be able to overtake him. You don't understand why starting positions would be set to put the driver at the pole on the outside of the first turn. Should pole position have the advantage? Otherwise, what's the point? Well, generally speaking, the inside line is the dirtier side of the racetrack, so I think that's the premise of why that is the case. But in F1, it's very different, of course. In F1, the inside line has all the power now, of course, with the way that the racing rules are applied. If you're ahead at the apex, then you have control and you stay within track limits. It is down to the outside car to basically give the position back or cede that position. I don't like it. It's not fair racing, in my opinion, and it just ensures that there's no prolonging of wheel-to-wheel battling. But hey-ho, that's where we currently are with F1. I did predict that it would happen, whether it be Verstappen starting on the inside or Piastri. Turned out Piastri was starting on the inside, and well, he did exactly what we thought he would do. Those are the racing rules. Max thought he was ahead at the apex and was forced out of position. They maintained that position, and well, the stewards deemed him to be incorrect, and he got a 5-second time penalty because of it. So yes, not really any wheel-to-wheel action at the front again in our 5th race here of the season. So yes, at the front, wheel-to-wheel racing a bit lacking at the moment. You could arguably say pole position 1 again. Of course, Max did start on pole as Leclerc is being allowed to overtake Jack Doohan here, as that gap to Lando Norris is 2.2 seconds now. Of course, Norris will be looking to get past Jack Doohan pretty quickly, and he might have a quicker time of doing so than what Charles Leclerc was able to there, as he got stuck past Doohan through the middle sector where you want to be going as quick as possible. And you can see that gap now. Norris taking advantage of Jack Doohan holding up Charles Leclerc there, as that gap is now 1.8 seconds as he's got blue flags being thrown for Lando. So he will no doubt get out of the way, and Lando, will he get DRS on the blue flag of Jack Doohan? Doesn't seem like it, no. But Jack Doohan, on the start-finish straight, moves out of the way for Lando Norris, and that's not what Charles Leclerc would have wanted to see. He'll be thinking, that's unbelievable. I got held up through the fast section of turns 21 and 22, and you've easily been able to breeze past him down the straight, as that gap is now 1.7 seconds with 5 laps remaining. Oscar Piastri, that gap is 3.3 seconds to Max Verstappen now, as Piastri is getting held up by Lance Stroll and Bortoleto fighting. Will Lance Stroll be having blue flags? I do presume he'll have blue flags any moment now, but Lance Stroll and Bortoleto fighting, and well, this could get messy here. We know when Lance Stroll, whenever he goes wheel to wheel, things can occur, and well, there's blue flag now thrown for Lance Stroll, so surely he'll have to get out of the way of Oscar Piastri. But that gap closing, 2.9 seconds now, 3 seconds to Oscar Piastri and Max Verstappen, as Lance Stroll is still not ceding to those blue flags. He is thinking about Bortoleto ahead. He needs to look in his rearview mirrors, Lance Stroll. He's still not ceding that position to Oscar Piastri, as he's focused on his battle with the Stake F1 car of Bortoleto. And finally, Lance Stroll cedes the position to Oscar Piastri. He was very close there to receiving a penalty, I believe, as of course there are a minimum amount of corners you have to give that position up by, and well, Bortoleto will be getting that blue flag as well, but he'll be thinking of course about Stroll, who might be looking at an opportunity to sneak round the outside of Bortoleto here, and I think he has done, as Lance Stroll uses Oscar Piastri lapping Bortoleto a la Max Verstappen in Monaco all those years ago, using the advantage of the lead car lapping to sneak through and get a position there. But it doesn't really mean diddly squat, as Lance Stroll was fighting for 16th place. But yes, Max Verstappen now 3 seconds behind Oscar Piastri. He was able to benefit from there, but not able to benefit as much as he wanted. Now the Team Redline Sim teammates Verstappen and Bortoleto. Bortoleto lets Max Verstappen by. And well, Sainz, Albon and Hadjar are still in a little train there, with Liam Lawson closing up, who has a 10-second time penalty. But Charles Leclerc and Lando Norris, well, Lando Norris not able to make advantage of that extra grip that he has on the mediums, as he's fully within the dirty air of Charles Leclerc now, and he's struggling to make any headway. It looks like it's going to be P4 for Lando Norris, unless Charles Leclerc does make a mistake. We've seen plenty of lockups down into turn 1 and turn 2. But yes, it seems like the battle there may be over with 3 laps remaining when Oscar Piastri crosses the start-finish line. Antonelli being chased down by Lewis Hamilton. However, Antonelli did get a bit of a move on last time around and pulled out 3 temps on Lewis Hamilton. But yes, pretty even spread here at the moment at this Jeddah circuit. It hasn't been the most amazing race here after what we saw at Bahrain. It's a clear indication again that strategy is an important element of Formula One. We need tyres that degrade. We need that strategy option of it being on the cusp of a 1-stop or a 2-stop, or vice versa with a 2-stop to 3-stop. We need tyre degradation. We need tyre offsets, especially in this last year of this era of regulation. With the dirty air that's thrown off, these drivers need a considerable delta to be able to overtake their competitors, as we are seeing Lando Norris, even on medium compound tyres that are 5 laps younger. They're softer than Charles Leclerc, struggling to close down the gap to Charles. And the only way he's really been able to do so is when Charles has come into the dirty air of lap cars himself, as Lance Stroll is currently holding up Max Verstappen as it stands. As it seems like Hadjar is a bit closer this time around than he has been to Alex Albon, but it's still not going to be enough, as Alex Albon has the DRS, of course, as he has done for multiple laps now from Carlos Sainz. Carlos Sainz doing... he knows how to keep another car in his DRS, as he did in Singapore, if you remember, with Lando Norris, keeping him in his DRS to allow the fact that Lando couldn't overtake. the faster cars of the Mercedes behind him couldn't overtake. A big thank you for everyone tuning in nonetheless. We will take in, of course, the race afterwards and see what the drivers have to say in our post-race debrief. Of course, hit that like and subscribe button, guys. Over 41,000 subs now, much appreciated. Over 1,200 likes, 14,000 of you in here. Big thank you. George Russell complaining his front left is not looking good at all. Do you have any concerns about it getting to the end? So the Mercedes really struggling on their tyres here today, more so than anyone else, it seems like, as Hadjar... Oh dear, Alex Albon just lost the DRS to Carlos Sainz there for some reason. Sainz has just given it straight back though to Alex Albon. He saw he lost it as Hadjar is pressuring Alex Albon here as it currently stands. He's as close as he's ever been to Alex Albon, and really Hadjar, if he gets an opportunity, should go for a move in the last corner, but he's just lost 3 attempts there in that middle chicane of turn 22, 23 and 24. Verdant, thank you for the 29, by the way, much appreciated, as Hadjar isn't able to make use of that advantage there. He lost a bit of time in that middle sector, and Carlos Sainz cleverly allowed Alex Albon to close up to him and get the advantage of his slipstream and his DRS. And you can see there, look at that, normal service resumed. Very good work from Carlos Sainz. If you're Williams, if you're James Vowles, you are frothing at the mouth at what you have seen here today from Carlos Sainz and both Alex Albon as well. Alex Albon up 2 positions, up into P9, double points for them, best of the rest. As Yuki Tsunoda, of course, is out, and Gasly as well. It looked like Gasly would be in the points here today. But we are on the final lap of this race, guys. We have had 50 laps here, 49 laps, sorry, of this Jeddah circuit. I must admit, we have seen better races here. We have seen better races this season, and it just once again shows, as I mentioned, we need tyre degradation here as Piastri, who got ahead at the apex of Max Verstappen into the first corner. Max got that 5-second time penalty, and how important that 5-second time penalty turned out to be. We know clean air is king. Piastri, the famous words he mentioned back in Baku, well, he has showcased that today. Max even showcased that today. But that 5-second time penalty, that first corner, played the biggest role in how this race has panned out. But Oscar Piastri, with only half a lap remaining, is going to win this race and will lead the championship. He was 20 points behind Lando Norris, the championship leader, who has been the championship leader since the first race of the year. And well, he has dug deep. He's won 2 races thus far. He's about to win his 3rd of the season and take control of this championship. Max Verstappen, of course, started on pole position. He potentially will have a look at the permutations of the championship standings. Could be going ahead of Lando Norris as he is coming unstuck behind Charles Leclerc. It'll be a good recovery drive for Lando anyway, getting up into P4. But one more corner for Oscar Piastri, and the Aussie leads the World Championship as he wins in Saudi Arabia at Jeddah. Max Verstappen in P2. He closes the gap to the top. And well, Charles Leclerc rounds off with what is a great podium, actually getting him work done out on track there. Lando Norris in P4. A good recovery drive, but should be better. We know he should be doing better. He loses his championship lead. The championship lead he's held since the start of the season. George Russell, the Mercedes, struggling today, crosses the line in P5. Antonelli in P6 as Lewis Hamilton, who's also struggled here this weekend, comes across the line without gaining any positions or losing any positions in P7. And well, there's still a couple more corners to go for the battle between Sainz, Albon and Hadjar. And well, Sainz has left Albon in the win here. Will Hadjar have a stab at Albon in the last corner? Has Sainz, who has done a tremendous job to assist his teammate thus far, has he just left him in the dust here? It doesn't seem like it, as there isn't the longest run down into the start-finish line, as Sainz does come across the line in P8, Albon in P9, Hadjar in P10, Lawson with a 10-second time penalty in P11, but I think he will, yes, Lawson demoted to P12 as Alonso comes across the line in P11, Behrman in P13, Ocon P14, Hulkenberg P15, Stroll 16th, Doohan is in 17th, Bortoletto in 18th, Tsunoda in 19th, and Gasly in 20th. And well, there you go, guys. There you go. That is it for the Saudi Arabian Grand Prix. I've seen better. I've seen better, guys. I've seen better. I hope you have enjoyed nonetheless. Of course, continue to hit that like and subscribe button. We're going to take everything in. We'll see what the drivers have to say. But yes, I mean, can we... if we have any more smooth track surfaces at any circuit remaining on the calendar, can the guys just go around with like a sandpaper and just rub it down for us? Because yeah, seems like it's not ideal right now. Let's do driver of the day though. Shall we do driver of the day? Can I end that poll? I can end that poll finally. It kind of went on me earlier, but let's have a look at driver of the day. I think it's a bit tough, to be honest with you. I think it's a bit tough. Driver of the day. Who do we go for? I mean, you could go Piastri, I guess, because he won. I think Isaac Hadjar probably deserves a shout. I don't want to put Norris because Norris is in the quickest car and he doesn't deserve to be there. I think it's a real tough decision. Charles Leclerc? I think Charles Leclerc, maybe. I think that's it, really. I think those three. I think that's it. I think that's it. I think only those three, and I think even that's a tall order. You could say maybe Alex Albon as well, but he only really gained 2 positions because of Tsunoda and Gasly. Hadjar at least got 2, did a great strategy and gained 2 positions. Charles Leclerc actually overtook George Russell. Piastri did what he needed to do to get down into the first corner. It'd be interesting to see what the driver's cool-down room is like between Max and Piastri. We'll see what they have to say. We'll see if it's a bit subdued, or whether or not Max has something to say to Piastri. That'll be interesting. But at the moment, the majority of you think Charles Leclerc is the driver of the day, close with Piastri. Yeah, I think Charles Leclerc. I mean, that car has struggled. That car has struggled here this weekend, and the fact of it, he's Verstappen gets a lot of credit, of course, rightfully so, for driving that Red Bull round and wringing the neck of that Red Bull. But Charles Leclerc is doing exactly the same in that Ferrari at the moment. He is doing everything that he can to get the most out of that Ferrari. The problem for him is that Ferrari, unlike the Red Bull, in its peaky nature, that it has, doesn't have the pace to even win a race. Whereas Verstappen, that Red Bull does in certain conditions and certain environments have the pace to win. So, penalty was unfair per the letter of the rules. I think the penalty was, the penalty was valid. So, thank you guys, appreciated. Look, it's a tricky race to get through, of course. It's a tricky race to get through, but I hope you enjoyed the commentary nonetheless. I'm trying to keep it as involved as possible for you. And we'll be back, of course, for Miami in a couple of weeks' time, where it is a sprint race weekend. Once again, I mean, are we going to see a lot of racing there? I don't know. That is the 5th time argument. I mean, of course, while pole position didn't win this race, we didn't have any wheel-to-wheel fighting at the front, only into the first corner. So, yes, very, very difficult. With this last... The performance of the cars over quality in clean air is so close. But when the cars are racing and they're close out on track, we need that tyre advantage and that tyre offset to provide us racing. So, thanks for the commentator. Much appreciated. Too many teams on the same strat. Exactly, Raymond. And that's the problem. We have too many teams on the same strat, and it provides us boring racing, even though they're very, very, although they're very close. So, love it. Piastri's little Verstappen move gave him the win. Yeah. I mean, it's the move that Max has made his own, and Piastri's used it against him. I mean, it's the racing rules. If you're ahead at the apex, I knew whoever we said. I'll probably go back and clip it. Whoever was ahead at the apex down into... whoever's on the inside, starting on the inside, was going to send it down into turn 1. Because as long as they kept it on track, they'd be able to say, as per the racing rules, I'm here. Max is complaining he didn't leave him any room. Well, yeah, but the racing rules don't state you have to leave room. So, my pleasure, guys. My pleasure. It was a bit of a... I mean, what are we going to talk about on the podcast? We're on the Missed Apex podcast in a few hours' time, guys. So I hope you go and check that out. Thank you for all the brand new subs, by the way, guys. Much appreciated. We are over 41k now. big thank you. Best commentator on YouTube. Thank you, guys. Thank you. Yeah, I try. I watched the race on F1 TV with volume down, then stream on second device, but volume up. That is one of the biggest compliment. That, I think, is the biggest compliment. Of course, I appreciate everyone who's tuning into this and just choosing solely this data in this track map. But to choose myself commentating over official broadcasts is a big compliment. So thank you, guys. Cheers, Paul. How did Tsunoda and Gasly hit each other? So basically, Gasly had the drive on Tsunoda. He went around the outside. He was ahead at the apex. Tsunoda should have scrubbed off more speed through turn 4. Basically, Tsunoda's front right interlocked with Gasly's rear left, and he just they collided. And well, yeah, they both ended up. Gasly ended up in the wall and was out of the race, and Tsunoda, I think he had suspension damage, or maybe he had some rear wing damage. They were looking at the rear of the car. He got going again, but they deemed it enough for him to retire. So yeah, real shame for Yuki. Of course, they're two good friends, former teammates, Tsunoda and Gasly. It was nothing really untoward about it. It was nothing malicious. It was just kind of a racing incident, but more blame on Tsunoda. He should have scrubbed off more speed. But it's a tricky corner. There's a wall on the left-hand side. It's a fast corner anyway. It's the same corner we saw Lando crash yesterday. And yeah, understeer is only kind of natural. It's risky from Gasly. He got the drive though. Tricky to overtake here at Jeddah. So that was an important overtake for him to make, but it ended up backfiring, unfortunately. You just mute Sky Sport and listen to me. Thank you. Much appreciated. Future analyst and commentator. When was the last time we had an Australian F1 champion? We haven't had one. I don't think we have had one, have we? Have we had an Australian world champion? So it's the first time. So let's have a look, actually. Let's have a look at the championship standings. Yes, what am I doing? What am I waiting for? What am I waiting for? You Oscar Piastri fan, you Aussies, you deserve this. You blooming well deserve this. Oscar Piastri leads the 2025 Drivers' World Championship. Yes, he does. Leapfrogs Lando Norris. He was 3 points behind before today. He's now 10 points ahead of his championship rival. He was 20 points behind Lando before, after race 1, and he's now 10 points ahead. Unbelievable. Third race win of this year, Piastri. That's what Lando should be doing. Good recovery from Lando, but it's not good enough. He's not going to win a world championship if he's recovering every single race, especially while his teammate is starting on the front row. Lando, damage limitation, 12 points. He maintains second place in the championship standings just from Max Verstappen, who's on 87 points, 2 points behind. He gained 18 points today, whereas Norris gained 12. George Russell still quietly picking up the points, maintains fourth place, 73 points there for him. The Mercedes really dropped off today in that second stint, though. Wasn't really expecting that. Charles Leclerc quietly picking up points as well, but that Ferrari just isn't quick enough to push for a P1 or a P2 at the moment. Antonelli, another 8 points for him. Hamilton in P7. Alex Albon picks up 2 points today and goes into still maintains P8, puts 6 points between him and Ocon, who finish outside there. No change really further down until you get to Hadjar and Sainz, who move up a position into P14 and P15. Carlos Sainz finally finishing in the top 10. It's what should have happened last week in Bahrain, but yes, because of what happened with Yuki Tsunoda, he got a lot of side pod damage and ended up out of that race, retiring. Yuki Tsunoda still yet to score. Did he score? He scored points last week, didn't he, in Bahrain, but he was P10, wasn't it, or P9? So yeah. Not a good result, obviously, for him today. And then the Constructors' Championship standings, you can see there, McLaren increased their lead, quite a sizable lead over Mercedes. Red Bull, with Max, the only driver scoring points at the moment, is in P3. Ferrari just not able to, Lewis Hamilton in particular, not able to get that car any further up. Any changes further down? Williams with double points there, move up ahead of Haas by 5 places. By 5 points. So that's the only change further down the grid. But every team, as per last week, has scored points. That's got to be a record, surely. Got to be a record for how early in the season all teams have scored points. Albon and Williams hanging on to spots in the World Drivers' Championship and WCC is crazy, I know. Max and Lando tired, very nice. Nearly tired, nearly. 89 to 87. But very close, very close. Has driver of the day been announced? We've done driver of the day, and I'm going to end the poll over 1,200 votes, and I don't know who got driver of the day trackside. I don't know, maybe because someone can let me know that. Normally it gets announced on the in lap, which I missed. But our driver of the day is Charles Leclerc, and I think probably warranted because he's one of the few drivers who actually got moves done out on track. Great strategy as well. He made those mediums last longer than anyone else, and had the pace to overtake a struggling George Russell. And he was concise and confident in the way that he did it. Something Lando Norris should learn from. Again, Lando Norris showcasing, but I think he would get schooled if and when eventually it happens. Him and Oscar Piastri are fighting. So, you think Verstappen got driver of the day? I mean, driver of the day votes aren't really that big of a deal anyway. Alan Jones was the last Aussie world champion, was he? Right, so let's do... This is going to be an interesting one. Let's do... Rate... Rate the Saudi GP. Jack Brabham was Aussie, was he? Oh, I didn't realise that. I'm going to do it. It's definitely not going to be a 10 out of 10, is it? So I'm going to do 1 to 2. 1 to 2. 3 to 4. 5 to 6. And then 7 to 10. I don't think anyone's going to vote it a 10 out of 10. Will Verstappen win this Drivers' Championship? Well, so the thing is for Max, right, is that he... that Red Bull clearly operates well at circuits where tyre deg isn't an issue. It operates much better in those conditions. Now, if tyre deg is an issue, the Red Bull has a problem. And the thing is that there are enough circuits, I think, this season on the calendar, as it currently states with the current performance levels of the teams. There's no way to determine that the performance levels of each team will be like this for the remainder of the season, as we can see it chop and change, especially with the new technical reg of flexi wings coming in at Barcelona round 9. That Red Bull, there's enough low deg circuits that Red Bull can win races. There is enough. So I think he's still in it. It just depends on how much he can damage limitation on other tracks where the Red Bull will struggle. But let's have a look. They're watching the first corner. Piastri and Verstappen. Any comment? No comment from Verstappen. He's just watching the TV intently, swigging his water. Piastri purposely, it looked like, avoided watching the TV and decided to have conversation with Charles Leclerc. It's a bit frosty in there, you know. Max isn't making conversation. So... There's not really a lot of conversation. I thought Max obviously not happy. Thought it feels hard done by. But those is the rules. Those is the rules. He needs upgrades to win. Max does, since Adrian Newey left Red Bull. Needs to look at the 2023 car and find the weaknesses in this season. Yeah. I mean, supposedly, if the rumours are true, they will be putting a lot of... Oh my goodness! I've just saw Bortoletto's moving under braking again, and that was no wonder he got a black and white flag. That could have been that red flag that Lando Norris was so desperately waiting for. Who got fastest lap? Doesn't really matter who got fastest lap. It really doesn't matter. I think it was Lando in the end because he was on the mediums. But yeah. At what point do other teams move resources to next year? Well, this is it, Gadget. This is it. I think Ferrari may already be doing so. Apparently, Williams have already done so, and they're quite surprised where they are. They're putting a lot of resource into next year. Apparently, they're putting all their wind tunnel time into next season already. Red Bull might be focusing more on this season because of the Max Verstappen performance clause in his contract. And yeah, that's the question, isn't it? Is how quickly do teams decide to just throw in the towel? It could go one way. It could leave us with a very boring championship, or it can leave us with a very interesting championship. So, No point for fastest lap anymore. No point for fastest lap. Max sulking as always. He's not sulking. He's just obviously thought that he probably should have won that race. Is what it is. Stewards aren't pathetic. They applied the rules as they are. I don't like the racing rules. I hate the ahead at the apex rule. I think they should allow racing room at all times. But that's how we've got. Those are the racing rules in F1 right now. We could have seen Max and Piastri go side by side, wheel to wheel for multiple corners potentially, or a few more corners, but we didn't because that is how that's how it happens. So that's how the rules are applied now. So Red Bull Fall 2026 will be poor and Max will leave. That's your prediction. Well, yeah, that is it, isn't it? I think that's really what will happen is that Max will wait till the end of 2026 to decide on where he wants to move to, maybe even sooner. But because a lot of the seats are wrapped up, only the Mercedes seat isn't solidified yet, which is George Russell's seat. But they're happy with George, and the Mercedes wasn't great here this week. So yeah. Max became famous for driving other races off the track. Well, that move is a typical Max move, and it's one where it's a move where Max has become famous for, and it's a move where the stewards have now, allowed the racing rules to become the way that they are in this current in their current guise. So, can I talk about Yuki Tsunoda's performance so far? Yes, I think Yuki's been making good progression. It's a shame his race ended up like the way it did. I think he would have comfortably scored points today. He probably would have been behind Lewis and ahead of Carlos Sainz. And yeah, it's been a solid start to his career. I think it's a racing incident. Primarily more blame on Yuki than it is Gasly. But yeah, it's one of those that anyone could kind of make. The Gasly was bold for making that move on the outside. But yeah, I think Yuki started off very well, and I think Red Bull have also learned to take a different approach with Yuki. They've tried to set up the car in a way that's a bit more balanced, a bit more easier to control, rather than outright like pacey, the same as Max. They know now, I mean, it's taken them bloody long enough to know that no one can match Max the way that he drives, the way he likes a car to behave, and they've obviously got it in Yuki's head, which is good, unlike Sergio Perez, who was adamant he wanted to use the same setup as Max. Look, let's just go for stability. Let's build some confidence in the car. The car is quick enough to be fighting for top fives, even with not the fastest setup. Let's do that and build something. So, and I think he's done well. The Toyota engine will be a force next year, considering they've been selling hybrid cars for years. They're not joining. They're not making an engine next year, are they? Toyota, Audi are. Toyota aren't, are they? No point checking the speed traps, Dusko. We're not going to do that. Only matters in qualifying. I don't understand. Is there a rule why Ferrari didn't allow Leclerc and other mediums after pit stop? Yes, there is. You have to mandatory use 2 tyre compounds in a race. So if Leclerc used another set of mediums, which he didn't have available anyway, he only had 1 set available to him, we would have had to have made another pit stop and used another tyre compound. That is the rule. So at minimum, you have to make 1 pit stop onto another set of tyres. Esteban Ocon tried to goal hang for a safety car, 49 laps on the hards, same as Bortoletto. I mean, you shouldn't be able to take tyres that long in the first place, to be honest with you. Thank you, Barry, much appreciated. But yeah, that's the rule. Yuki Tsunoda needs to drive aggressive to make the most out of the Red Bull, just like Max. I think he's doing a good job thus far, Paul. I don't think anyone expected him to be on the same pace as Max. In some sessions, he's been not far off of him. And I think, he's definitely not on Max's level. No one's on Max's level, especially in equal machinery. And yeah, I think Yuki's doing a solid job thus far. So it's a shame that he ended up in the barriers, but that's racing sometimes. Who's my favourite driver? Lewis. I've always been a big Lewis fan. Interestingly, 38% of you think a 5 out of 6 for this race. I'm going to be a bit harsher. I'm going to say that's a 2 out of 10. I really think that was boring. Not as boring as Suzuka, but I think that was really boring. That's just my personal opinion. Don't know about you guys. Maybe, I mean, can I even push it to a 3? I don't even think I can. Like, there wasn't really any proper side-by-side action. I mean, Lando overtook Hamilton a couple of times and he came back at him, but it's all just kind of boring DRS passes. Like, no one, I don't remember anyone actually really going kind of properly side-by-side into the first corner. Not that boring. That's okay. That's your opinion. Look, everyone's entitled to their opinions. For me, commentating it, I'm not gonna lie, it felt a bit of a struggle. So I'm glad I didn't soundboard, Simon. I was always trying to find places up and down the track to commentate for you guys, and hopefully I do a good job in making it exciting for you. That's a commentator's job at the end of the day. But yeah, I found it. I don't know. I just found it a bit of a. Maybe if Hadjar would have easily got Albon. It's just these races where we have no tyre offsets and drivers are on the same strategies. It's boring. Pole didn't win there. There was some overtaking, a bit of strategy. 5. I think personally you're being too kind to the race, but hey ho. 25% of you are saying 7 out of 10. I mean, if your favourite driver, if you're an Oscar Piastri fan, maybe you give it a higher mark because your drive, or if you're a Sainz fan or an Albon fan or something, I don't know, whoever your favourite driver is, if they did better, you do generally rate a race higher. But for me, I want to see racing. I felt like we didn't see enough of it, so. We'll talk about Lewis in a second, Jared. Yep. Yuki's gap to max is still higher than average of his last teammates. Yuki's a good driver. Took RB 10 years to figure out how to set up a second driver success. But props to other drivers in earlier eras. Yeah, look, we've discussed it. It's not the same car that Liam Lawson drove in the first 2 races. They've made progression on the development of it. They brought a lot of new parts to the car in Suzuka. I think that was overlooked. Also, there is the confidence of driving at circuits that you're familiar at as well. Yuki was obviously coming off of a high of being more confident because of the start of his season in RB, whereas Lawson was coming off of a big low. So there's also that mental aspect to it as well. And they've decided to set up the car in a way that is more consistent for Yuki and work with him that way, whereas Lawson had a different setup every single session. I think people don't realise how difficult that is, even in the sim, to go to a different setup from session to session. That's just not doable. You can't build confidence and consistency up that way. So I hyped up a bit, so improved score is probably what's happened. If you're rating the race higher because of my commentary, thank you. Much appreciated. But yeah, from in my head, it was lower. Lewis Hamilton's performance at the moment, he is just struggling. There's no other way around it. There's no other way to beat around the bush. In his own words yesterday, he said he needs to change his brain. Now, you can say it's excuses, and it is excuses. He is struggling to get a handle, by the sounds of it, with the new engine, with the new brakes, and just how the car operates. Also, he is definitely struggling to handle that peaky Ferrari. They slapped a bit more downforce on his car yesterday, or over the weekend, compared to Charles Leclerc. And he still was struggling with the rear of the car. So all of those combined factors, Lewis is just lacking confidence again. And yeah, I'm pretty convinced that he just does not have any confidence in this era of cars, this regulation set of cars. He had, of course, a high in the sprint race, which was great. And you saw what Lewis can do when he feels comfortable in the car. But more often than not, he doesn't feel comfortable. I think he gets in his own head as well, similar to Lando, and he kind of tells himself it's worse than maybe he actually is, rather than trying to deal with it. So yeah, he's a 40-year-old who's spent the last decade at Mercedes, dealing with a Mercedes engine, Mercedes brakes. He's moved to a team. I kind of expected this at the start of the season, to be honest with you, his performance. I didn't expect it to be this bad. But I expected Leclerc to be comfortably ahead of Hamilton because Leclerc's been there for the last 5 years, whereas Hamilton hasn't. So, yeah, he'll probably have some peaky performances as the season progresses, but don't expect anything amazing from him this season. It's all about next year for him. And many drivers, to be honest with you. There'll be many drivers already, as we've just completed the 5th race of the season. Is it round 5? I think it's round 5. Let me have a check. 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, as we've just finished the 5th race of the year. There'll be many teams and drivers right now assessing their position and going, okay, What do we do, guys? What do we do? Do we just bail out now and just focus all on 2026? Or do we actually try and maybe finish a couple of positions higher in the constructors or so forth? I think Ferrari will be one of those teams that definitely cuts their losses already. I really do. Unless maybe they're thinking about Barcelona. Maybe Barcelona is where a lot of teams will think, okay, with this new flexi wing technical directive, and that's normally a track where a lot of teams bring upgrade packages, maybe that's kind of like the line in the sand for them. If this really progresses us forward and moves us forward, we will focus a bit more development time on this season. If it doesn't, that's it. It's all about 2026. So, do I think Alpine stuffed up doing strategy by swapping mediums after only lap 1? Potentially, but I think Doohan was off the pace here this weekend anyway. They tried something outside of the box. They tried to go long, gain track position, and hope for a safety car or hope for a red flag, so that they could then bolt on probably some softs at the end of the race, and they're potentially scoring points. As we saw, overtaking was tricky here. The likes of Doohan, the likes of Ocon, Bortoletto, Hulkenberg, they just didn't have the pace here this weekend in the car or in themselves to put their cars into point scoring positions. So you have to try something that's outside of the box, throw something at the wall and see if it sticks. And unfortunately for them, it didn't happen. There was no red flag. There was no safety car. So yeah, you have to try something, especially when he was the last car. I mean, he was down in 17th or whatever it was. He's not making up 7 positions out on track, is he, to get into the points? So it's too soon to say these seasons in 24 and 25 are long now. Yeah, I mean, there's going to be a line. There's going to be a point in this season where they have. They probably discussed it before this season even began. They go, right, this is our development plan, but of course we're allocating resources to 2026. We need to decide if we are not in the championship fight. I mean, Ferrari, I would arguably say they're already over 100 points behind in the constructors. They aren't winning the constructors, I don't think. I mean, that's a considerable amount of points behind already. Now, yes, the season can flip on its head, but I feel like McLaren do have a considerable advantage. They're going to be strong at every single track. Mercedes might be a bit more peaky. I mean, they really struggled in that second stint. I'm not entirely sure why. I expected them to do better. The Red Bull, in its current guise, struggles at circuits where tyre management is a thing. The McLaren excels at that. So the low deck circuits, the Red Bull is going to do very well. There's enough of those this season for Max to still be in the championship battle. And he'll be hoping that Norris does sort his act out and that he takes points off of Piastri so that he can still stay in touching distance. But Ferrari, they're not going to win they're not going to win the drivers, I don't think. And I don't think they're going to win the constructors. So, even though it is a very long season. Thank you for the subs, guys. Much appreciated. Thank you, everyone, for tuning in. Still 1,600 of you here. Over 1,500 of you. Yeah. Nice to hear some insights while doing schoolwork. It's my pleasure, Lorenzo. Constructors might be wrapped up before summer break if it continues at this rate. Well, exactly. Red Bull only really have one driver, again. Mercedes may do so. Antonelli is improving, although he struggled here again today as well. I mean, I'm intrigued to see why the Ferrari... I mean, George was saying his front left was looking really bad. So, on the mediums, they were quite good, but... Well, they were okay. I wouldn't say good, but they were okay in relative terms. They had kind of Ferrari covered off. And then when it came to the hards, they just fell off entirely. Last year, 6 races to go, Ferrari had 75 points deficit and they almost got it. Yeah, but that deficit's going to increase. It's going to massively increase between now and like midpoint of the season and so forth. It's going to be even wider. And Lewis is struggling with that car as well. And yeah, I don't know. Maybe I'm being too pessimistic for Ferrari. I hope they don't. I mean, I actually hope they don't bail out of this season because it'd be great to see them stick it out. We want to see multiple race winners this year. We want to see the pack close up, but there's still too big of a gap at the moment as it currently stands. So that performance upgrade they brought in Bahrain hasn't had the desired effect of closing up the gap to the McLarens, is it? And even the Red Bull. So isn't F1 just political? It's a lot of it's political, yeah, for sure. I wonder if changing from push rod to pull rod or the other way around is why Ferrari is struggling. Oh, Red, yeah, don't get me started. I mean, they changed their concept. They pretty much almost got a brand new car for this season. And they had such a great platform for last year to build upon. I mean, don't get me wrong. The cars are considerably quicker than they were last year. There was still an evolution in the performance. However, considering how they ended the season and how they closed that gap up to McLaren, and you look at where McLaren is now, McLaren developed the car that they had. Now, Ferrari will say it's because we maybe felt like we had a ceiling with the car that we had. Maybe that is the case, but they just felt like they couldn't get any more performance out of that car. But I don't know. Questions have to be asked. Why is he not, or why did they not stick it out with that concept? It's clearly not working for them. I agree, Dark God. Yes, I do agree. GP's finished now. Bono could not sit inside Ham's car because it would not be economical for Bono to switch the K1 switch. But yeah, today, strategy-wise with Charles Leclerc, it worked out for him. Ferrari actually had a good strategy. Charles Leclerc's pace was good. He was lapping very quickly on those mediums. And yeah, his strategy there gave him a bit more tyre offset. Not a lot, but he gave him tyre offset. George Russell was struggling on those hards. And he's able to decisively dispatch George Russell at the first time of asking. So, yeah. Who won? Oscar Piastri. Surely Evolution was better than Revolution. Typical Ferrari Charles. Brilliant today. Yeah, Ferrari issue is the rear a la Merck's last 2 years. Shame, really. Yeah. But as you said, Aaron, you said it, didn't you? Maybe they are using this year almost as a test for next year. Maybe they're already testing out parts for like suspension unit for next year. The pull rod system rather than the push rod. So is it push? Hang on, they're going from pull rod to push rod. I can't remember. I always get this mixed up. They went the opposite. They went from push rod to pull. Sorry, they're in the pull rod system. Maybe they want to use pull rod for next year, but yeah, whatever they've done clearly isn't working at the moment. So who would have thought Ferrari and good strategy would be in the same sentence? Well, I mean, to be honest, there wasn't too. It's not like you needed the degree to figure out the strategy today. To be honest with you, it was quite easy to work out. The field started to spread out. You could see that the lap times of Charles Leclerc were working. You could see the lap times of George Russell on the hards. Even on brand new hards, Charles Leclerc was much better. Was matching the lap times of George Russell on brand new hards when he was on medium. Was he on mediums? Yeah, he was on mediums or whatever it was, like on old mediums. So that's just a simple, yeah, let's extend this stint and then we'll have fresher tyres at the end and we'll be on the same tyre. And George is only going to get worse. So, just watching the replay, by the way, Lando Norris was extremely close to Pierre Gasly and Yuki Tsunoda's crash. He was literally the car behind them. So he did a very good job of avoiding that, just being a bit patient. And they kind of spun out of his way. But Lando could have quite easily got caught up in that. Yeah. I would say it was a rather boring race. Yeah, I don't disagree. Sadly, they are basically developing a car during the season. Last year, race is crazy. They had better hope engine is up to snuff next year. Exactly. Who overtook this race? Charles Leclerc overtook. Lando made a few overtakes, although it took him bloody 3 tries of asking to Hamilton. Once again, not using his racing brain. I don't know why he thought he had the pace to get past Lewis and the tyre advantage to get past Lewis in the last corner and then expect to hold him off down into turn 1. Yeah. So next race is Miami. The next race is Miami, and it is a street circuit, ladies and gentlemen. It is a street circuit. So we have a couple of weeks now. 2nd of May is that weekend. We have the sprint qualifying, of course, on the Friday afternoon. The sprint race Saturday. Then qualifying, of course, for the main race, and then the Grand Prix on the Sunday. Can they bring the C6 tyre to Miami, please? Because Miami is also a track where we haven't seen too much deg in the past. They need to just bring tyres with the grade. We need it. I'll show you sector speeds in a second. Hang on. Which team GP am I most looking forward to? Silverstone. I'll always love Silverstone. Actually, Austria and Silverstone. The Red Bull Ring, I think, always provides good races, and Silverstone. Those 2 tracks back to back, perfectly positioned in the calendar. I used to say Spa, because you used to have, well, it's not a triple header anymore, but you have Austria, Great Britain, and then Belgium in the middle of the season. I used to love that swing. However, Spa now doesn't provide really any racing. But it's still cool to see cars go around there, but yeah. But Silverstone and Red Bull Ring are always great tracks because you always get a bit of intermittent weather, and Red Bull Ring actually provides great racing, and as does Silverstone. So, but yeah, I'll show you sector times. Hang on, I mean, they're kind of irrelevant, really, to be honest with you, as it is in the race. But you can see there that Charles Leclerc was fastest in the last sector. They don't really mean too much, to be honest with you. Lewis Hamilton slow in the last sector. Imola, you predict will be boring. Yeah, so Imola will be basically kind of, I mean, everyone's kind of going Monaco 2.0. They said that for Suzuka. We saw more overtakes here than we will see at Monaco for sure. But Imola could very well be Monaco 2.0 or 1.5. Should we say Monaco 1.5? They are bringing the C6 tyre to hopefully provide more degradation. I mean, we want a dry race at Imola. We don't want a wet race because if you provide a wet race, they're just driving in a single file because there's nowhere to overtake. There's only one place to overtake, which is the first corner. We need tyre offsets. This is what we need. So they have announced the C6 will be used at Imola. So hopefully that provides some more degradation and at least provides some form of strategy. That's really the only intrigue we're going to get at Imola, I think. So the 5-second sentence was a joke. The FIA has once again destroyed a great race. They want a new world champion on the rise. Without the penalty, we would have had a super duel. Oof. I disagree. They applied the rules correctly. Now, I don't like the racing rules as they are, but the Max Verstappen himself has... I did say it a few years ago. I said, like, look, there is going to come a time where Max Verstappen is on the receiving end of his own moves, of his own way of racing, and he received that today. He wasn't ahead at the apex. Piastri was. Piastri stayed on track. Max went off track, held on to the position. The rule now states that the teams have to decide whether or not they should have the risk of holding on to the position, or they relinquish it. Otherwise, they'll receive a penalty. The stewards deemed Piastri was ahead at the apex, as the rules are, and Max illegally held on to that position, which is why I got a 5-second time penalty. I hate the racing rules as they currently are. I think drivers should leave racing room at all time. Otherwise, it's a penalty. I don't see what's so difficult about that, even in the size of the cars that they are. And that's what happened today. And that's why it had a big overbearing factor in the end on the race result. It's potentially the main reason why Piastri won this race today. Because I'm not sure Piastri could get past Verstappen, as we saw on the mediums, because Max wasn't struggling on the hards either. His lap time was okay as Piastri, in clean air at least. I don't think Piastri would have had the delta to get past Verstappen. So yeah, it did decide the race today. So typical Max 30 driving. It's not racing to me. It's just not racing. I don't want to see battles over in one corner. That's not what I watch racing for. That's why other racing series can be more enjoyable to watch, because they have to afford racing room. So Max had plenty of time to give position. Yes, he did. They thought that he wasn't ahead. They thought he was ahead at the apex. Simple as. I think maybe they thought because there's normally leniency on the first lap, especially at the first corner. And I think maybe Red Bull thought that there might be leniency there. There is also, as well, Max does roll off the brakes and he does carry a bit more speed around the outside. Once Piastri has to hit the brakes to kind of turn his car back to the right, Max releases the brakes and goes off track. And I think that's where he probably thinks, I'm ahead at the apex, like I've been able to maintain it. And he didn't. Obviously, he misjudged kind of where the apex was, and Piastri was better. So, I mean, ultimately, I know obviously Max will think that he's felt undone by, and so will Max fans, but it's Max's fault, and yes, it is Max's fault for having a slow getaway. Oscar Piastri just had a better getaway. The reaction time, Oscar Piastri was over 2 tenths quicker off the line than Max, and Max was on the racing line. So credit to Piastri. He just nailed the start. He nailed the release. Whereas Max, we say he doesn't make mistakes, and he rarely does make mistakes, but I think that was a mistake from Max today, evidently. So let's end the poll. 5 out of 6 for many of you, 3 out of 4 for the Saudi GP. I said it, we needed safety cars, we needed red flags. We got one too early. We got one on the first lap, unfortunately. So Max isn't a dirty driver, he is the product of his father's and Schumacher's teaching. Max has been allowed to race the way that he has because of the stewards in their day. If you're racing that way and you're being told that nothing's wrong, you're going to continue to do it. You're going to gain every racing driver in any series is going to use any advantage that they can possibly get. Tell me a racing driver that doesn't take that same approach. So yeah. Charles second in the voting, Max driver of the day fan voting. Well, we gave Charles the clear driver of the day. I think it's a tough call today, to be honest with you. So Max is just allergic to getting overtaken. Think Monza 2021. He'd rather park his car on top. I mean, yeah. I mean, no driver likes to be overtaken. So we don't need safety cars in races. We need real racing. I know it's going to be tricky here this year. It's going to be tricky. I mean, I don't want to be a Debbie Downer again, but I mean, we're heading to Miami next week. Next time around. Who knows what? I mean, we didn't get much racing there last time, did we? Imola next. Oh my god! I've just looked at the next 3 races. I mean, I want as many viewers as possible, and I want to grow this channel as much as possible. But we're heading to Miami, Imola, and then Monaco in the next 3 races. I mean, someone really needs to look at the race calendar, didn't they? And split those races up in the future. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, qualifying's great, but Pirelli might as well. Do you know what? Pirelli, just bring the C6 every single race now. Bring the C6 to every single track. Maybe go back to early 90s cars with less downforce and more mechanical grip. The dirty air hurts his car so badly. I mean, yeah, but there was plenty of times in the 90s and the 2000s where we didn't see any overtaking at all. So it's, I mean, the start of this regulation set was brilliant. But yeah, we have got to the point now where they've allowed the cars. So I've mentioned this before. I do put blame on Pirelli. However, they are in a bit of a rock and a hard place because they're trying to construct a tyre that has to deal with the highest amount of energy any F1 car has had to deal with. So the last thing they want is to construct a tyre that can't deal with those energies, the energy put through them, and have them blowing up. So what that has done for them is that it's meant that they've had to construct a tyre that has resulted, unfortunately, with it lasting arguably, or constructing tyres that arguably last too long. Now, we've also got a lot of track surfaces now that have been relayed and that are just too smooth, so there's no tyre deg on already quite conservative tyres. And then there's the regs. The regs have allowed the cars to get too quick. And we have the fastest F1 cars in history. And what's happening is that because of that, they're providing more performance, but that means they offset more dirty air, which makes it difficult to follow. It's great to watch in qualifying because the margins are so small. But when they actually get out and race, which is what we all want to watch, the teams can't stay close enough, especially with tyres that just last forever. So they should have really pegged back the regs and made the cars, held them back a bit really, and not allow them to get so quick, so that Pirelli could develop their tyres more and build a tyre that actually doesn't last an absolute age. So, would I rather have Bridgestone back? I mean, I don't know. I mean, I feel like it is due a change, yes, because I feel like while Pirelli are in that rock and a hard place and they don't want tyres blowing up, at the same time, they're not rookies. They've been doing this for years. They've been the F1 supplier for what, over a decade now? Way over a decade. So they've got it wrong more times than they have got it right, haven't they? On both ends of the scale, really. So it just feels like they should be doing a much better job. So, do I prefer these rigs or the 2021 ones? I still think we got more racing. So I like the start of 2022. I think we saw a lot of racing there, a lot of wheel-to-wheel racing. I think the end of 2021, end of 21. So the end of those regs in 2021, I think we hit a sweet spot there. I think we did. I think we saw more. We actually saw offsets of tires, tire strategies. We actually saw overtaking. I mean, if Max didn't send it into every corner and launch Lewis off at kind of any opportunity, we could have seen more wheel-to-wheel racing for the lead. We did see a lot of racing in the mid-pack as well, which unfortunately was just the case. But then, yeah, I mean, we've allowed these cars to get too heavy. We've allowed them to get too big. And that's just a real shame for everyone kind of involved. But 2026, hopefully, the one thing I'm hoping for in 2026, I don't care who it is, I don't care who's at the top, I just want there to be two teams. I want there to be two teams. I don't want there to be one team that dominates, which get two teams that nail it, at least, better than everyone else at the start of next season. Because we don't want the start of 2014 again. We don't want the start of this set of regs where one team just completely dominates. So the new regs usually creates a huge field spread. It does, but as long as it's close at the top, I don't care what that field spread is. As long as the top two teams are close and we have at least two teams being able to go for it, rather than an inter-team battle. So 2021 regs will go with the shape and liveries. I mean, they still allowed the cars to get too big. 2017, they just it's like they took a growth pill or something, didn't they? It was just like, whoa, when did these cars get so big? So it might just be Merck's engines, but now it's a better hope McLaren do it like the Works team. Yeah, I mean, Williams are putting a lot of stock into it as well, aren't they? So I think everyone would like more than two teams, but I will take two teams at the start of a new set of regs because I've watched F1, as many of you have, for many a year, and the amount of times it's just one team that dominates, and especially you don't want a team where it's got one number one driver, because otherwise we're going to have one driver just dominates again for multiple years. So no matter who you support, I don't want to see a driver dominate. I mean, fair enough if they win every single race and they've got a challenge for it. I've said this before, but I don't want to see one driver win every single race by 20 plus seconds. So yeah, but there we go, guys. That is it for this stream. I'm going to call it there because I am hungry. I need some food before I do the Missed Apex podcast. So let's change scene. But yeah, that is it for me, guys. I mean, yeah, a bit of a slog, won't lie to you. Again, just shows we need tyre management. We head to Miami in a few weeks' time. I will be doing some live streams in the week because I'm off on work. So we'll be able to do some streams for you. I'm sure there'll be lots to talk about still and stuff. Oh, hang on. Max Verstappen talking about the penalty, actually. They asked him what he thinks about the penalty, and Max went, to be honest, I think any words towards that is a waste of time for everyone. Max said to him, we spoke about it a lot this year and last year and in different kind of rules. Not sure I agree. I don't agree with him there. I think the rules are pretty clear that it's ahead of the Apex rule now, isn't it? So it's been clarified. Hey ho, hey ho. But yes, have a lovely rest of your day, guys. Thank you for the subs as always. What sub count are we on? Let's have a look at our sub count. 41,188. Much appreciated. Growing the channel as every single weekend, guys. So yes, Oscar Piastri wins. He leads the Drivers' Championship for the first time. Unbelievable after he was 20 seconds down. 20 seconds? 20 points down on Lando Norris after the first race. And Lando Norris is now 10 points behind his Aussie teammate. Max Verstappen, 2 points behind him. But yes, that is it. Thank you guys as always. Have a lovely rest of your Easter. Enjoy your bank holiday Monday if you're in the UK. I don't know who else has a bank holiday Easter weekend. But regardless, thank you for tuning in as always. We'll be back in the middle of the week. Yes, as I said, for some live streams. Thank you for all the memberships. Thank you for all the subs and the likes as always. And hopefully Miami, with it being a sprint race weekend, hopefully it provides us with better racing. That's all we can hope for. So, yeah, will Lando be finally able to get his act together? Surely he's going to have some confidence. He can take some confidence heading into a weekend where he won his first race in F1 last year. Who knows? Who knows? Will Oscar Piastri continue this great form he's on? 3 races this year. He has got race wins. So 2 more than his teammate. Hence why he's now 10 points ahead. So, yeah. Thank you guys as always. Thank you for the kind comments, and we'll see you in the middle of the week for some more live streams, and of course in 2 weeks' time for the Miami Grand Prix. Thanks guys, bye.